And I am live. How's it going, everybody? It is the Kagalo Fox News Macho. I talk about anime, video games, cartoons, most notably Sonic and Ninja Turtles. And tonight, I am doing another live stream. Yep, that's right. I did one last week, of course, and I said I was going to do one for the weekend. If you guys saw my community post, I said that I was going to do one today, which is on Sunday and whatnot. Preferably, I love to do live streams more so on Fridays and Saturdays. And Sundays, that's kind of like the end of the weekend and everything, going into the weekday. But hey, we're here for the fun of it, right? So let's see who comes in and whatnot. We can chat or whatever, that kind of thing. But yeah, so if you guys seen my community post as well from the other day, which was the 4th of July, so happy 4th of July. I was on Jay Leno's stream and stuff, and we were talking about X Men '97 and everything. We had a pretty good time and whatnot. Talked about lore, talked about speculations, apocalypse, all that stuff. So we'll definitely excuse me, we'll definitely talk about some X Men '97 as well in this stream, among other things. That's just on my mind and stuff, and we'll see where we would go from there. But I'm also gonna try and react to some of my my videos and stuff. What's happening, Jay Leno? How you doing tonight? But I was thinking about reacting to some of my videos that I recently uploaded. The one about Tang Shin, and then the other one about Wonder Woman and stuff like that. And I'll probably break down or probably give you more of like my thought process while I'm here live and stuff. We can just chat about it. So where should we start? So of course I have a list of things. I guess we'll start with this first. Let me try to share the tab or share the screen. What's happening, Jackson? How you doing tonight? But yeah, of course, when my family comes down, I'll probably just mute it and we'll and I'll like resume and all that stuff as usual. But yeah, so on my community post, I had put this up a few days ago about because I kind of just thought about this after I got done talking about my last stream with Elektra and all that. And I honestly don't think Elektra is really that bad of a movie as people try to make it seem like it is. Like I know that sounds like a reoccurring thing with me, but that's one of the things with my whole channel and stuff. Is kind of like why I like to like dump my ideas and stuff or dump out my thoughts and just be like, I feel like a lot of things are just narrative driven, where I feel like there's always like people like trashing on something that isn't even all that bad, but it's like, oh no, it's the social norm and stuff like that. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so yeah, Jack said I will be talking about X Men '97. That's for sure. Hang on, I gotta let the dog out. if she will make up her mind, I guess. Never mind. Anyways, yes, I will be talking about X Men '97 in this stream, but I'm gonna cover some things first. But yeah, I just feel like there's always like a narrative or something out there where like people like want to trash some like. That's what I would say about stuff like the Daredevil 2003 movie or the Green Lantern 2011 movie, where I'm like, those movies weren't really all that bad as people really try to make it seem like it is, you know. But back then, you know, it's 2003, 2011, or Elektra 2005. So a lot of people think that, oh, because it's superhero and stuff like that, they don't take it all that seriously and stuff. So that's the main criticism from back then. But movies today and stuff, people love superhero movies, regardless of how trash it might be, like that recent Supergirl movie, where you got people now on the defense about it, be like, oh, but, no, no, stop. It was just bad, man. It was a bad movie. That's not what exactly I want to see from like superheroes and stuff, you know. But anyways, so on my community tab, this isn't about which movie is better between Electra or Logan or anything like that. It's just a question on, all right, essentially they're the same movie, okay? And if you can think of any other anything else otherwise, explain in the comments. Nobody didn't really explain in the comments, so that's whatever. But I'm just gonna be honest though, like yeah, it just dawned on me that Electra and Logan both are kind of like the same movie in a way, where like you know, it's literally a Marvel movie about two anti-hero, well, about an anti-hero trying to save a little girl who's kind of like the MacGuffin. So like you know that organization that created, you know, what was it, the X, like it can't be the Weapon X program, but let's just call it the Weapon X program. They were after X-23, you know, Laura Kinney and stuff and whatnot because they want her and all that. And they don't really care about Wolverine or the same thing with like Elektra, where the hand was after that girl and whatnot. Um, Abby Miller, yeah, Abby Miller and stuff. They were after her and all that. So it's kind of like, yeah, the same kind of thing and whatnot. Or them, like, you know, realizing that they're actually like, you know, become like they're trying to like relearn to like become the hero that they once were and stuff like that. Or traveling with an older mentor like Professor X or Stick and all that. Or just, you know, just being targeted by, again, a secret, shady organization. So it's literally like Logan and Elektra are both the same kind of movie and stuff, you know. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to hate on Logan or anything. I do like Logan, but Logan to me is probably not my favorite Wolverine movie. I mean, I know there's only three live action so far, which is Wolverine Origins, The Wolverine, and Logan. But I'm going to be kind of completely honest with you, though. I actually do like The Wolverine, and even to a degree, X Men Origins Wolverine a lot more. But the thing about Logan is just that, you know, we love the acting, and of course, you know, Wolverine's eventual death and stuff like that, and seeing him in pain. That's what like resonates with a lot of people where they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know what I mean? And of course, you know, it's rated R, which, you know, we're getting a rated R Wolverine. So that's like, oh, you know, plus compared to the other two movies. But still, I'm just saying, like, yeah, but I just kind of like the other movies a little bit more so than Logan. But that's just my point, though. A lot of people love the movie, but I just want to like put out something that's a little bit objective. That it's like, all right, Elektra and Logan are both kind of the same movie in a way, same plot, and the same kind of like you know character thing. But I kind of like I respect Elektra and even the Wolverine a little bit more because it's more of a like you know them trying to like you know live their lives a little bit more, them becoming more heroic towards the end and stuff, and not giving up on life completely. Whereas Logan is kind of like, well, you know, Logan at least goes out sacrificing himself, and you know Laura gets away and stuff like that, but it ends on a sour note. So just to put that out there. Actually, Hancock was kind of the same movie. Maybe. I mean, I can understand the whole broken hero kind of thing, but also trying to redeem himself and whatnot, and become a better hero and whatnot. What's happening to XE Kid? How you doing tonight? Both are about anti-heroes who don't want to be heroes, trying to rise above the shortcomings. Now the dog wants to come downstairs and use the bathroom. All right, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, I'm just saying, like it's essentially the same thing. But anyways, let me get to the videos that I wanted to react to, which is of course my own kind of like you can call it a director's commentary about these two videos in particular. All right, so first I'm gonna talk about the Tang Shin video and stuff, and then I'll talk about the Wonder Woman thing and whatnot, and then I'll get.
How's it going, everybody? It's the Talking Little Fox here. Today in my show, I talk about anime, video games, cartoons.
I was playing Mega Man X7 the other day, and I was like, you know what? Let me use this as stock footage. I know I should, and probably could use
How's it going?
TMNT stuff from like Shredder's Revenge or maybe Injustice, but over after a while, you kind of get a little tired of playing it at the moment. So I just wasn't in the mood. So I was like, all right, or it gets a little repetitive. So I was like, all right, well, let me pull it. Like, I guess I could use Mega Man X7. So this is where I was fighting the final boss with Sigma.
Everybody's the Talking Little
In
Fox.
that game, and my God, that game! I just remembered how bad that game is. I mean, it's all right, but it's just like it was crazy,
Today
and just it gets frustrating at times too. At the same time.
I talk about anime, video games, cartoons, most notably Sonic and Ninja Turtles. And today, I am here to talk about Ninja Turtles. Yes, finally. I know it's been a while since I talked about
Listen, it probably would be silly dialogue scenario question, but what do you think Fiona will reply to a fat Batman cosplayer calling her Poison Ivy? I don't know what she would say. To be honest, that is random, but I don't know. Anyways, continuing.
Ninja Turtles, but I felt like this would definitely be an interesting topic.
And just for the record, I did lose a lot of times. I'm not even going to deny it. I did lose a lot of times fighting this Sigma thing. Had to do multiple retries and everything, so you're not going to see that in the video. That's just my final attempt at beating it and stuff like that. So yeah.
It's been something I've actually been having on my.
So I won't call myself out on that one
for quite a while, probably like a year or two, maybe ever since I did that.
But I've been had this idea for Tang Shin even before like the comics had started to like retread about her, because I was thinking about like ever since I did the April video and stuff. I think I did it like April is the true sister of the Ninja Turtles, and I definitely did a Junica video where I was kind of explaining the character to Junica and that I said she's the half sister, but really she's the stepsister, or really she shouldn't be the sister at all. But but yeah, I was going in and explaining who Junica was and whatnot.
Well, it's probably been a lot longer since I did that. Junica is the stepchild or whatever, the stepsister of the Turtles and stuff video. I've been thinking about doing like a video like this, or that April's the true sister of the Ninja Turtles. Yeah, I had this idea, so this will be like kind of like, think of it like a continuation, but this time I'm actually doing it with Tang Shin this time. Yep, that's right, Tang Shin. So I'm gonna talk about Tang Shin as a character, what they've been doing with her recently, because I am loving it. So let's get right into it. Tang Shin is the wife of Hamasa Yoshi and was originally killed by the Shredder over a one-sided love triangle. Her death is usually the catalyst for her Splinter and the Turtles.
I would use some of the Mirage comics, but I don't have anything on me right now. And Tang Shin is only in like I think issue 1 of Mirage, and that was it, because she's supposed to be the catalyst for like how the Turtles and stuff and Master Splinter want to get their revenge on Shredder, what started the beef between the Hamato clan and the Oroku clan.
To learn ninjutsu to avenge their masters. Outside the comics, the 2012 version made her the late stepmother of the Turtles, who they had met via time travel, as well as the wife of Master Splinter and their daughter that they share in Karai. But the IDW comics had actually revamped her story, where she was actually born hundreds of years ago, and she's still the wife of Hamasa Yoshi, and that they had 4 sons who they would later on be reincarnated in modern times as not only Master Splinter, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, so the 2012 version, I will say they did try to go a little bit more with Tang Shin, where, of course, she died when she was supposed to die and stuff like that. But she did have a moment where she did interact with the Turtles, and they got along pretty well and whatnot. And also, like, her impact on both Master Splinter, Hamato Yoshi, and, Karai.
Whenever the Turtles were going through like near-death experiences,
and these are screenshots of my actual comics that I have and stuff. I kind of scanned it on my computer. That I put them in the video and stuff. So as you can see, I actually like how it turned out and how big it is and whatnot. Like with the with the full splash pages and stuff like that.
or had like breakdowns, Shin's spirit would
What's a
actually
splash
appear to
page?
them in aberrations. And ever since I got into the IDW comics, I've actually been wanting to see more of Shin, since there was actually potential there to actually be explored with her character and the Turtles' spirituality. But they could have actually had done something like reincarnate her or her family, or doing something with her. That's just my opinion. And finally, after 100 something issues and a relaunch later, we finally got her reunited with her family, just like how I wanted. And I don't really care.
Of course, this is the cover. I love this cover. Kevin Eastman also had a cover too, where she was wearing like the New York, the New York City statue on the, the Liberty statue outfit and stuff. But I kind of was like, don't really like it. But I do like this cover. This is from Freddie E. Williams the second.
If this is not permanent, I don't care if this is temporary. She's finally back, which is why I'm actually supporting this run. No Jenica, good artwork, touching up on untapped potential. I'm loving it. So just to recap, Splinter had managed to come back as a murderous vigilante known as Ujigami, killing people who would potentially kill his sons in different realities. So far, he's attempted to murder their enemies like Baxter Stockman and friends like Casey.
And just for the record, Baxter Stockman is not murdered. He's just heavily injured because he was attacked by Ujigami, Master Splinter. But this is one of his victims, though, that he had killed at the courthouse. And as you can see, Leo was kind of pissed about it. I kind of wish I got a little bit more. I got more of that bottom half, but I should have got more of the upper half, though. But it is what it is.
Jones. After the Ninja Turtles, Splinter, Karai, and Shinigami had got into it after summoning a.
This is when Master Splinter was about to go after Casey, and then Raph was like, well, wait, hold on. Because Raph was kind of split between wanting to help out Master Splinter because, him being his dad and all that, and feeling like he owes him for like raising them and taking care of them and stuff like that. Of course, the Raph was like, you know what? Yeah, we should help out Master Splinter because like it's not like these guys, these guys are going to kill us in the future and stuff like that. So we should like act on that. And I trust Master Splinter because a lot of it, like he's wise and his his knowledge has really grown in the afterlife. So who are we to But when Master Splinter said like we got to kill Casey and stuff like that, Raph was like, oh, wait, hold on now, I don't know about that.
A giant skeleton demon Splinter had merged with. Michelangelo encounters his mom in the afterlife, who he actually recruits, and a teenage version of Hamasayoshi to stop Splinter's rampage. After that, they're finally reunited as a family and spent the recent issues spending quality time together, fighting a gang and touring New York and going to a carnival.
And I'm not even gonna lie to you, I really thought that that entire issue was gonna be like just like slice of life, them going to the carnival and them spending time as a family. And when I skimmed through it, I kind of missed the action part of it. But when I read it, I was like, oh, okay, this works too with the whole action and stuff in it. Where there was this gang that attacked the Turtles and Master Splinter that was working with Baxter Stockman. So that was pretty nice.
Shin tries to return because she feels out of place with the times, but is forced to kind of stay by the people that she answers to because she had abandoned her post at the Tree of Fates.
And I'm not going to lie, Shin looks really great. It looks really great.
There's a wedge between Casey and the Turtles right now that's kind of brewing. Definitely. After Casey had learned that Splinter and even Shin are alive again, which kind of seems a little bit unfair to him because Casey had lost both his parents in this version.
Yeah, Raph didn't even get it at first. He thought that Casey was still in the hole. Well, Splinter tried to kill me, whole ordeal, and like, what was the deal with that? But it was that too, but also like, Casey's parents are both dead. And I get how this kind of complicates things with his relationship with the Turtles where, he loses everything. He lost his family and stuff, but he has the Turtles in April to turn to, whereas the Turtles, Master Splinter, their dad, and even Shin, their mom is back now. So, and it kind of, and I forgot to also mention too, that is kind of like, well, it is deserved for them to kind of come back, or at least for them to be in the Turtles' lives, because the Turtles was like robbed of them at like such an early age and whatnot. And it's been like, hundreds of years since they've been separated, but now they're reunited. So I'm just saying, like, look at it from both perspectives and, in some kind of way that I get like Casey he feels a little bit jealous or a little bit, a certain type of way about her coming back. Not to say he hates her or anything, but just like, wow, wait, these guys can get their mom and their parent, like, and their dad back, but I can't get mine.
which is kind of reasonable that he feels that kind of way. And I know some people try to trivialize it with Casey's feelings about, oh well, why does he feel so sad about his dad dying and stuff like that, or what?
And I was referring to Teddy, a gaming review, where he's another Ninja Turtles channel, and he does like reviews and stuff about the Ninja Turtle comics and everything. And he kind of like, when I saw his review on it, he was like, "Oh well, it doesn't make sense why Casey should feel sad about his dad's death or whatever and stuff like that." I'm like, "Well, that's still his dad, and he still loved him. I mean, yeah, his dad was terrible, and I'm not saying that the Turtles really mourned for him like that, but they do care about like Casey's sentiments and stuff. And I get that, Casey definitely feels some type of way because despite his wrongs, I mean, of course, that's still his dad at the end of the day. So like, I can understand that there are like some parents out there that really, ain't shit or whatever, or really like, yeah. But if something were to happen to them, I mean, sometimes that definitely could like affect other people, whether they like them or not.
Whatever, he was abusive to him. Yeah, he was abusive, don't get me wrong. And even though, yeah, we understand that Hun wasn't really ain't shit, his dad really did sacrifice himself to save Casey, and despite all his wrongs, Casey still cared about him at the end of the day.
This is from my graphic novel of the TMNT, where it has like a collection of their stuff. This is from Casey's micro comic, where he his dad had gotten into it with the mob or something, or the Yakuza, where he was gambling, and he gambled like his prized possession, like his necklace or whatever. So Casey paid those guys a visit and took it back, and then told him to stop messing with Hunt or stop messing with Arnold Jones, and that his debt is paid up and all that stuff, along with Raph. And Casey, he comes back and stuff like that, and his dad gets all like drunk and wasted. And then when Casey comes in, he wakes up, and then he starts beating him and stuff like that. And Casey has to take it, and then this is a flashback of like his mom comforting his dad and stuff, and telling Casey that, like, look, you're stronger than your dad, but in order to take care of him, you got to make sure that he feels strong too. And I'm sorry, but you got to like once I go, I know stuff like bad things are going to happen, so please just endure it and stuff like that, is what she was telling him and whatnot, because you are the stronger one.
So to me, this is definitely a better way to kind of create tension than whatever Sophie Campbell tried doing, especially when Splinter actually did try to kill Casey. So now there's also like, some drama there as well.
Yeah, I didn't like when Sophie Campbell, because what Sophie Campbell tried to do in the comics was she tried to add in some artificial drama with Casey in the Turtles, or at least with Raphael, because Casey, Casey, this is after he lost his dad and stuff like that. And a lot of people weren't really spending a whole lot of time with him and stuff like that, because the Turtles lost Master Splinter. Casey also lost his dad too, but since a lot of people care about Master Splinter more than his own dad, because his dad was their enemy at one point, it's kind of like, yeah, he kind of gets a little neglected. So he gets drunk, and then he like makes fun of Alopex in front of Raph, or he says something sly, and then Raph didn't like it, and then they get into a beef for a little bit over it, and then they kind of just hashed everything out and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what Sophie Campbell was trying to do, and I'm like, I don't feel like that works, in my personal opinion. But I do get the whole like, yeah, Casey feeling neglected angle though.
So that's what's going on with TMNT right now in the IDW comics. Tang Shen is the true matriarch of the Yamato clan, not Scumbug, not Big Mom, Tang Shen.
Yep, taking some shots because, well, Big Mom, I don't hate Big Mom as a character like that though, per se. But if anyone's really supposed to have like a romantic like love interest, like if Master Splinter is supposed to have a romantic love interest, it has to be with Tang Shen. Or as Hamato Yoshi, it has to be Tang Shen. That's just me. But yeah, I know my friend Ash is here. He was going back and forth with me a little bit about Big Mom, and yeah, you might have something ongoing with Big Mom and stuff where yeah, like I'm not saying she's a terrible character entirely, but Scumbug, I'm like, please, why'd you guys do this? Like, why'd you guys do this? Like, really? Like, as if Master Splinter would find this attractive, or that you guys thought that this would be like, oh, this would be fun for a couple of laughs. Not really. It's kind of disgusting and it's gross. Okay. I'm serious. I mean, I'd rather see the turtles with human relationships and stuff like that than Master Splinter and some weird mutant cockroach. Like, no, just stop it. Like, like cut that out. So I'm like, yeah, if there's anyone that is the true matriarch of the family, it's really Tang Shen in April. But
which before
oh
April
no,
was to fulfill the void as the older sister to the turtles. And not only is this good for the turtles, but it's something that Master Splinter needs too in order to rein in his
this is the fight that they got into in that issue, in the recent issue,
radical actions in the comics.
and Tang
Because
Shen
a
helping out.
lot of the stuff that Master Splinter has done in the IDW comics kind of makes him on the borderline of a villain almost, you know?
I did think about doing a video talking about how I think Master Splinter is kind of descending a little bit into becoming a little bit of their villain in some kind of way. Or, like, trust me, in the IDW comics, Master Splinter is kind of like definitely like a very anti-hero stuff type of character, where he has no problem doing a lot of, certain things to like get ahead and stuff like that. Like he's killed people. He killed the Shredder, of course. I mean, that's the Shredder, sure, fine. To end their family feud, he killed Darius Dunn, which the Turtles were like, oh God, father's really losing it now, and stuff like that. Mikey was right all along, that this is crazy and stuff like that. Taking over the Foot, running the Purple Dragons along with Casey Jones. What else has Splinter done? That was just he was thinking about raising the orphans that the Turtles had like rescued from the Rat King. It was thinking about Master Splinter was thinking about turning them possibly into foot ninjas, but thanks to again Michelangelo convinced Master Splinter to to at least give them the choice when they get when they become of age and whatnot. And then that kind of became a little bit of a thing during the whole terms of agreement with Splinter and Karai, where Karai wanted to also turn them into foot ninjas once she has control over the Foot Clan. But this is Master Splinter just taking Casey's dad, Hun or Arnold Jones and stuff hostage or whatever, or just like, all right, Raphael, let me show you how you really threaten people and stuff like that. And you gotta keep a level head, or you could end up doing this.
Like taking over the Foot Clan, killing people in his way, gang wars, going after their friends, almost raising orphans to become
Casey,
foot ninjas, etc., which kind of created a lot of division with him and his sons. So for right now, Shin is really the glue that's actually holding the family together right now.
as much as I want Matt Splinter to be like a benevolent character, I can see that there is a darkness and a temper within Master Splinter and stuff like that that can definitely be exploited. And I would say that would probably be it right there.
Maybe she can also teach them spiritual techniques, and it would probably be cool if she spent like a few issues with each of her sons to kind of flesh out and develop their relationship a little bit more. But
Sorry, I'm eating some fries right now. But that is an idea that I had in mind. That like that's probably what they should do next is like have like spend individual issues building up like with Tang Shin trying to build up her relationships with each of her sons and then talking about them in their past lives and stuff like that and teaching them something new. I think that would be pretty cool. So like here you already have something with her and Michelangelo, and then later on maybe you can probably do something with her and Leonardo, her and Raphael, or of course Donatello, where I feel like definitely with Donatello. You guys know Donatello is my favorite Ninja Turtle. You can have Donatello's like whole, like science and stuff and technology and whatnot, where his more logical thinking kind of get questioned again with Tang Chen's take on spirituality and stuff like that, and like Donatello trying to embrace that side a little bit more. And of course, he did kind of indulge in the whole magic thing, like also Doctor Strange, Sorcerer, Sorcerer Supreme type of stuff. When he was messing around with the magic or the stuff that Shredder had taught him. So there was that. But yeah, I'm just saying that could actually come full circle here because in the beginning of IDW, Donatello used to get into these like moral debates with Leo about like spirituality, their reincarnations, and Donatello's like, that's ridiculous. We're not reincarnations. We're all like science experiments and blase blase. That doesn't bode well. But I feel like that would definitely work here with his relationship with Tank Shen. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, she can definitely teach them like spiritual techniques so that they can finally
Hey, what's
advance
happening,
and
Dr.
stuff like
Hino?
that.
How you
Because
doing
Tang
tonight?
Shen knows a lot of stuff from the.
Hope everything's going well. Just streaming, giving us some director's commentary. I saw your recent video and stuff about you know, your book and everything. So yeah, guys, check out Dr. Hino if you're interested and whatnot. He's got his book up on Amazon, where it's on the Kindle. It's embarrassing how rusty I've become with commentary. Uh, well, you weren't half bad. I mean, a little bit, but it is what it is. Sometimes you just gotta just like, just go for it and stuff. And it helps with being natural and just being yourself and whatnot, or public speaking. But anyways, let me get back to this.
The afterlife. Like she even knows now how to speak English because she met people in the afterlife and whatnot, and she's been dead for 100 years, as she had pointed out to Michelangelo. So maybe she might know some other stuff too that can actually help in the long run. Especially against Karai, because Karai is definitely off of some demonic, spiritual, dragon scale type stuff, and we could also get some insight on their past lives as well, like their actual real names, because the IDW Turtles, they actually had like they actually did have like names in their past lives.
And that's just something I wanted to point out too, is that they the turtles did actually have other names in their past lives and stuff like that we never really got revealed on what they were. I think Sophie Campbell wanted to give them their names, but I was like, oh no, she doesn't deserve it. She doesn't deserve that right to give the turtles their names, among a lot of other things that I feel like, yeah, because I feel like when it comes to like writers and stuff, I feel like when you have like a good writing credibility to your name, then that's where I feel like you can probably add like stuff to characters that you probably didn't create and stuff like that. So like, let's say Daredevil, right, with Frank Miller. Now, originally in the Daredevil comics, Daredevil's mom, which is we all know is Sister Maggie and whatnot. Originally, Stan Lee and Bill Everett had it where Daredevil was raised by his dad and he was a single dad and stuff like that. And he had mentioned in the first issue that that Daredevil's mom had died or whatever. That's what he told him and whatnot. And for a while, that was the case, that he was like an orphan and everything. And then later on, we get to like the 80s with Frank Miller's era. That's where Frank Miller had introduced Sister Maggie. But Frank Miller has a lot of good writing credits to his name, where I feel like, okay, and it worked out for the story. So that's what I'm saying. Like, in some kind of situation like that, I feel like, okay, it can work if it like makes sense, right? So I don't feel like Sophie Campbell has earned that right, because she's done a lot of terrible things in the TMNT stories, and just a lot of things where, and I think even at one point she wanted to replace the turtles too. Like I know I've gotten into it with people that were like complaining about the last Ronin, talking about some, oh, they're trying to replace the turtles and stuff like that, even though the characters aren't even getting pushed now. In the last Ronin, they had that one story arc which was Re-Evolution, and it was only like what, two female characters, two sisters and two brothers, but okay, whatever. But anyways, besides the point. So, anyways, yeah, but Sophie Campbell definitely tried to push a lot of other stuff on there that I just was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. And then on top of that, she killed the longest run on TMNT and stuff, where I'm like, Ninja Turtles could have easily have reached to issue 200, but for whatever reason, they had to stop at 150 because Sophie Campbell was taking it. So they had to relaunch. But it is what it is. I missed your collab stream yesterday. I was waiting for it, and then my mind wandered onto other things. Oh, it's all good, man. But it's over on his channel and stuff. We talked and everything about X-Men 97 and stuff like that. So, that kind of thing. But we definitely need to do a collab, though. That would be awesome. I need to think of some stuff to talk about. I mean, I know we can easily talk about like our own characters and indie stuff and our thought processes and stuff like that. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, but I'll reach out to you on X and stuff. I do follow you, Dr. Hino, on X, but um, the account is a little bit of a secret to other people. But I have no problem telling you though because you're cool and I trust you. So you'll find that out eventually. But anyways, let me play this.
That wasn't like, of course, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo. Those are their modern names or their modern identities. But like Master Splinter, because that's Master Splinter's current name in the current life, Master Splinter is Hamato Yoshi in his past life. So we don't know what the other Hamato brothers' names are and stuff. It's kind of like Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack, his real name isn't actually Jack, but it was just the name that he had adopted for the times and stuff. So Samurai Jack for a while had kind of went nameless. So we don't actually know like what Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, or Michelangelo's names are in their past lives yet. Those are actually some names that April had actually given them in the current IDW comics.
Yeah, because April had named the turtles in the IDW comics and also in the Bay movies as well. But obviously they wouldn't be named after the Renaissance artists if they lived all the way back in Japan, though. So Anyways, now on to my Wonder Woman video. And then we can definitely talk about the other stuff as well. So there's this animosity. Yeah, I wanted to make this as loud as possible.
Animosity for Wonder Woman as a character that I just don't get that casuals and even DC Comics just have. And honestly,
yeah, like it's weird because the reason why I made this was because I'm down for it. Oh boy, you seem more unhinged post. Dear oh dear. From your X account, I haven't seen anything too wild. At least I don't think so. I think you should be good. I mean, I'm worried you might see some wild stuff from my page. That's for sure. That would, yeah, that's what I'm like. But I'll trust you with it though. But anyways, let me play this.
This whole thing kind of starts.
Yeah, so I feel like there's this animosity like with Wonder Woman. Like, because whenever like either I or other people like suggest the idea, a lot of people try to be like, no, Wonder Woman can't work. She's not a good character. She only works in the Justice League and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, are you only saying that because you saw the DCAU and because you saw Batman the animated series and then they did Superman the animated series, which Batman the animated series is just supposed to be like its own thing. They weren't going to expand it like that the way they did, or they didn't think about expanding it like the way they did. But, they're like, nah, keep going. So they're like, all right, after the Batman the animated series that ended for a while, they did Superman the animated series. Let's do a Superman show. They're like, well, do we? And they're like, you know what? Yeah, let's do a Superman show. We're going to do it our own way. And they did it their own way. It was pretty good. And then, we got a spinoff of Batman, which is Batman Beyond and stuff. But they were talking about teenage Batman. They're like, all right. Well, we want to do more stuff with Batman and Superman together, like a crossover kind of thing, which, they had crossovers in each of their shows, predominantly more so Superman than Batman. But they're like, but let's make a show for it, right? But you know what? Here's a better idea. Let's do Justice League. So then, that's how we got Justice League and stuff like that, where we got the inclusion of the other heroes like, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, and Flash and stuff like that. And Hawkgirl, along with Batman and Superman. So, you're kind of getting that, like, getting something out of that and stuff like that. So that's how that we got, Justice League and then eventually Justice League Unlimited and so on and so forth. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised, Jonan. I know how men of culture are. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. Yep. Yep. But anyways, yeah. But that's what I'm saying though. Is like people only seen like, okay, well, because Wonder Woman was introduced inside Justice League because of the DCAU, they think, oh, well, that's only how she works inside, or that's how she can only work. And I'm like, no, she can have her own show too, or they could have done a show like a spin-off show like of Justice League where Wonder Woman show takes place in between Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, or it's at the same time, kind of like Static, because Static was actually coming on too around the same time as like Justice League was, and Batman Beyond. And I remember people were like complaining about those shows, right? And they still had crossovers and all that, even the Zeta Project and stuff. So if they can get all that stuff, it makes no sense why Wonder Woman can't. But I don't like, and I saw some guys were talking about they want the DCAU Wonder Woman to have her own show now and like bring back Susan Eisenberg. I don't know about all of that per se, because it's kind of a little bit too late to do it, in my personal opinion, to do a show about the DCAU Wonder Woman. It could have worked, but I'm just saying it's probably a little bit too late. I mean, I wouldn't mind an animated movie though. And to bring back Susan Eisenberg, I'm not saying she don't still got it. She definitely got it, and she can definitely she is to me the definitive voice of Wonder Woman. But I would say well, why not do like a show that's in its own universe now, since we're in the 2020s, and you can have so you can still probably get Susan Eisenberg back, but maybe you could probably have her voice like Hippolyta or something. That'd be pretty interesting, or maybe Artemis. I think that those would be some interesting ideas of what they could do there. But that's just my personal opinion, though. But anyways, let me continue with this.
Ever since Wonder Woman 1984 back in 2019, to the point where people actually just openly neglect Wonder Woman as a character, and people are just attacking Gal Gadot. Okay, and that's not just me just exaggerating.
And I'm also kind of getting annoyed too, because I was like, Jesus, why are people attacking Gal Gadot like as if she has done something terrible or whatever? Because I'm like, because again, like when I was because again, I mean, yeah, I was like a teenager going into my young adult phase and stuff, and I'm like, I don't remember all of this stuff on Gal Gadot, and not until like at least Wonder Woman 1984, where the movie was bad, but doesn't mean like, oh, let's keep trashing on the actress and stuff and make all these compilations of her saying things out of context and then say that's the the representation of her acting. But I'll get to that later when I get to that.
Promise you that. And every time there's like a suggestion to kind of do something more with her character, people want to just magically make up excuses as to why she just doesn't work overall. Excuses like, oh, well, her villains are uninteresting. General audience can't name 5 of her villains, even though the same could probably be said about characters like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, or even Daredevil.
Yeah, like I hear that like a lot, where people also try to be like, oh, well, Wonder Woman's villains aren't interesting. They're not iconic. Well, you probably don't know about her villains because there's not a show about them, unless it's the I guess the Linda Carter one that was from all the way back in the 70s, or if you watch the movies or something like that. But it's only been mainly about either Ares and Cheetah or something. Or if you watch Super Friends, you got Giganta in there as well. But I'm like, yeah, but you wouldn't know a lot of Wonder Woman's other villains, like Circe, who was in Justice League Unlimited, or you wouldn't know about Queen Clea and the Villainy Inc. Excuse me. Or just a bunch of other villains that Wonder Woman definitely does go up against, or Dr. Psycho, Dr. Poison, like so on and so forth. Like there's plenty of villains that can definitely that she can go up against, that can hold that can definitely be a show, like a show's worth. So that's what I wanted to put out there. But also but it's also just kind of hypocritical, because it's like, all right, people want to make that as like a thing, but then I'm like, okay, well, people can't name 5 villains of Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, or Daredevil, but yet they get all this stuff. And I'm not like, again, that's not a complaint, but that's just like, come on, because I mean, I could probably name 5 villains from like each of those characters and stuff. Now, I don't read a lot of Thor comics, but I do at least know maybe 5 characters that I could probably think of. Horus, Loki, Enchantress, Scourge, the Executioner. That's 3 right there. Who else? I think Ego the Living Planet is a villain. The Wrecking Crew and stuff. The Absorbing Man. Like those are all like Thor villains and stuff that he goes up against. And I'm like, okay, but I'm pretty sure the casual audience or whatever, they can't really name you like 5 Thor villains, but yet we got like 3 to 4 Thor movies, or like Iron Man. Iron Man, the movies have barely even tapped into a lot of Iron Man's villains. Like of course, we got Ironmonger, which that was a good villain for that first movie. Then Iron Man 2, you have Whiplash and whatnot, which it's kind of like Whiplash was an amalgamation of Whiplash and Ivan Starenko, because I think Ivan Steranko's name was I said Ivan yeah, because that was his name in the movie, Ivan Steranko, which it's that's Crimson Dynamite in the comics, but they used him as Whiplash for whatever reason. But yeah, you got some villains right there. Blizzard, never touched up on Blizzard. You know, Donnie Gill, Living Laser, Stingray, like none of those characters. Unicorn, or even for like Daredevil. Like Daredevil's got like a ton of villains, but a lot of people probably can't name you five Daredevil villains. They could probably give you three at best, which is Kingpin, Bullseye, and the Hand. That's pretty much about it, and maybe Muse, because you know they kind of promoted him as like, oh, he's this new villain inside Daredevil Born Again, so check him out.
Like Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor have like about 3 to 4 movies, and I can promise you, a lot of people could not name like five of Captain America, Iron Man, or Thor's villains. Even though they have like rogues galleries and all that stuff, people could not name them. Or even Daredevil.
Or even
Daredevil
Captain
has the Jessica
America.
Biel
Like Captain
movie.
America's got which it was his birthday yesterday. But Captain America, he's got you know, Baratak the Leaper, the Red Skull, Baron Zemo. There's two Baron Zemos. Baron Helmet Zemo, which I think is the current one, and the dad or the grandpa that fought Captain America back in the World War II and stuff. He was called something else. But yeah, um, two Baron Zemos, one Red Skull, the Leaper, let's see, Crossbones, the Serpent Society. Like, yeah, those are all villains that Captain America, for the most part, deals with. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people cannot tell you anything about those characters, though.
And he has like 2 shows, which is a total of like 5 seasons when you want to put that together. I'm pretty sure people can only name Kingpin, Bullseye, and the Hand, and probably Muse because of Daredevil Born Again. But that's about it. People cannot name five, or they probably can't tell you anything about, I don't know, Typhoid Mary. They can't tell you anything
Yep,
about
not Tyson
Frogman.
Fury,
They can't tell you anything
Frogman.
about the Stilts Man. They can't tell you about Gladiator or Al, who are both actually in the show. So I'm just saying, like,
Which I didn't even notice at first that they were in the show, besides Gladiator, sort of. But I was like, oh, okay. That was an interesting way of including them in there. They just didn't give them their costumes, though. All right, sorry about that. I am back. My cousin came downstairs to get something, and then she took forever. So I live in a house full of girls, so you know how that is. They never just don't know when to just keep quiet or just leave you alone, or just take a hint. But it is what it is. Whatever. But that's all done and out the way. Yeah, sorry, it's been a minute. How's it going, Ashes? As if I thought YouTube would give me any notifications. Huh, I'm surprised. Well, anyways, you're here now. You missed the Tank Shin topic that I was talking about. But if you have any questions about Tank Shin, Ashes, feel free to ask me.
Yeah, people can't like actually name you these characters, but yet Wonder Woman is just off limits. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, like if you want the character to get popular, then the best way to do that is to just expose more of her villains, more of her characters and stuff. And this is a comic that I do in fact have and whatnot.
If you actually want to popularize her villains, wouldn't it kind of be the more ideal thing to do? Would be to kind of give Wonder Woman a more modern day show, or more animated movies to kind of cement them, like The Flash, because people only knew like Reverse Flash, Captain Cold, Heat Wave, and Gorilla Grodd, really thanks to the Flashpoint movie and the CW show. Or just get creative and make up new villains for her to go up against. Like the Batman movies and the animated series even created original villains like Harley Quinn, Red Claw, Baby Doll, Lock 'em Up, Roxy Rocket, Phantasm, Batman Beyond's Rose Gallery. The show also revamped characters.
And again, well, and I was supposed to show those two characters, Grail, who was the daughter of Darkseid that became like a rival for like Wonder Woman. So that could have been interesting. Or Arisha from Justice League, where that was an original character that was created that Hippolyta had taken in and raised like a daughter or two and stuff like that on the Mascara. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, they can easily create like characters or like villains. And there were plenty of like Justice League episodes where like Wonder Woman definitely like had moments where this honestly could have just been a simple like Wonder Woman like focused episode, even without the Justice League. Like I could probably think of a few episodes like that time when she went to go deal with Felix Faust and stuff like that. And of course, she had the Justice League helping her out and everything. But you can easily do something like that for a show where it's just her going up against them. Or like, who else is another thing? I'll probably be. Oh yeah, Maid of Honor and stuff. That was a pretty good 2-part episode where Wonder Woman became friends with this princess of Cosnia, if I'm not mistaken, and she's marrying. She's in an arranged marriage with like Vandal Savage and stuff, and Wonder Woman is suspicious about Vandal Savage because she dealt with him back in World War II, but she's unaware about his immortality. But and it really was just her and Batman throughout that episode. Like I think Green Lantern and Flash came in a little bit later to help out, but it was mainly just her and Batman for the most part. Or Hawk and Dove and stuff. That episode from Justice League Unlimited, where they're fighting this thing that Hephaestus had created that was made out of the same armor as like Wonder Woman's and stuff like that. It's kind of like what was that thing from Thor, the Eradicator and stuff like that, where Wonder Woman was fighting that thing. Yeah, or Thor was fighting that thing from the Thor movie. But I'm just saying, like Wonder Woman had a similar thing too, where she was fighting like a suit of armor inside that Hawk and Dove episode, and that was like literally just about her and Hawk and Dove. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, with enough writing talent and stuff, you can easily do like movies, or you can easily do like a cartoon and stuff like that. Just need competent people working on it, though. That's the thing. But anyways, not really. Tank Shin is based on if somebody brings Bebop and Rocksteady above her, it's not a true TMNT fan, no matter how many deck figures he buys. Well, I mean, I guess that's opinionated. I don't know. Like if Tank Shin and Bebop and Rocksteady, like which one you would kind of consider better. That's subjective. Like it's kind of weird because Tank Shin is just used as like, let's say like Maria from like Sonic, right? Where Maria is meant to be that character that's supposed to be sacrificed to uplift Shadow. But then you got like, I don't know, I don't want to say rough and tumble, but just some generic bad guys or something like that. Like I guess God, why I gotta go for Scratch and Grounder, like Scratch and Grounder or something like that, where they have more time to like shine or more, focused episodes or whatever. But anyways, let me get back to this.
There's like Mr. Freeze, who used to be like a D-list villain called Mr. Sub-Zero.
I was going to go in a little bit more on Mr. Freeze, but I would have been trailing off, and I was like, nah, because I was going to talk about how honestly Arnold Schwarzenegger probably could have played the perfect Mr. Freeze, but it's just kind of like how he was directed though was the problem. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. That's a random thing that I just thought of. I was like, you know what? Yeah, that could probably work.
who
But
just committed crimes of ice and stuff. But again, if like why can't
but again, but remember, like a lot of people like out of like remember because a lot of people seem to forget this, but because of Batman the animated series, they made like that reinvented Mister Freeze, where he went from like that, like a villain that likes to rob people or steal things because he has an ice related weapon, like he's Captain Cold or something, to becoming like this sympathetic like character and stuff, where like he's got this disease where he can only be in absolute zero and stuff like that, and like his whole like situation with his wife and that he wants to save her and everything. That was because of Batman the animated series, not because of the comics. Okay, so they can do that something like that with Mister Freeze. They have no excuse to do that with something like with like any of Wonder Woman's villains, right? If they wanted to like reinvent them in a way. But anyways, let me continue.
like this also be done with Wonder Woman? I wonder. And if her villains suck that badly, or if they're like, oh, unusable and stuff, then why does DC use her villains and other things? Like they just use
They used Cheetah inside Catwoman Hunt It.
Cheetah inside
She was the
Catwoman
main
Hunts
villain.
Him, which decent movie and stuff. But yeah,
And it was a
Cheetah
good
was
movie.
the main villain in that movie, and she was in Batman Unlimited. Giganza, she's currently in My Adventures of Superman right now.
Yep.
Doctor Psycho is in Harley Quinn as a supporting
Yeah, one of the main characters.
character. Circe is in Creature Commandos as the main villain or sub villain or whatever inside that first season.
Let me say this. Isn't Batman the animated series also the first to make Clayface and Mad Hatter sympathetic? Um, yeah, you might be right about the Mad Hatter because I think they kind of changed up his origin, but I wouldn't really call the Mad Hatter sympathetic. He was just he was kind of a creep to be honest with you. That dude was a creep. But Clayface though, okay, so going back with the comics and stuff, like the comic book history and everything, I think I see what Batman the animated series did a little bit differently with Clayface because there's like three, sort of four Clay like versions of Clayface, right? As we all know, there's Bastio Carlo, who was the original Clayface from the Golden Age, but he was just a serial killer that I guess he looked deformed or whatever and stuff like that, and they called him like he was nicknamed Clayface, and then Batman stopped him. Then and he like I said, he was an actor and stuff too. Then later on, there was another character called Matt Hagen, right? Where Matt Hagen, he was the first Clayface to get turned into like a sludge monster and stuff like that, and he was like a thief or something like that or a criminal. And then he gets turned into Clayface or whatever and stuff like that. Like, and then there's a third Clayface, but I'm not going to talk about him right now, or a lady Clayface. Not going to talk about her either. But anyways, so Matt Hagen and Bastio Carlo, right? So they took Bastio Carlo's actor origin, where like Clayface is like an actor and all that stuff, and kind of gave it to Matt Hagen, where he became the sludge monster, but he's also like a actor and everything. Yeah, so that's what they did with that with there. So they kind of like combined origins and stuff, kind of like what they did with Tim Drake and Jason Todd, where like when they introduced Tim Drake inside Batman the animated series, they kind of took Jason Todd's origin and just gave it to Tim Drake and called him Tim Drake pretty much. So let me get back to this.
And you also got Jinx inside Teen Titans. Yet her villains are uninteresting, right? Or another excuse is she's a female character and guys just wouldn't really watch an action based show about a female character, even though guys have been watching stuff like Powerpuff Girls, Kim Possible, Totally Spies, The Winx.
Yeah, I was going in on this one.
Stuff like Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, I was thinking about the. I remember I got into an argument one time with my dad when I was like 17 and stuff, where my dad thought I was like, because my dad's a little bit kind of homophobic and stuff like that, and he's like, "Oh hell no, my son's watching a girls show and stuff like that, and blase blase, that's gay." And I'm like, "Well, Dad, you don't know nothing about Powerpuff Girls, so how are you gonna like? You don't know what happens in that show, so how are you gonna be in the position to criticize it?" So I remember, I think I probably told this story too, but me, my sister, and my dad, we were driving up to like my brother's to like hang out with him. And I think I was meeting my nephew for the first time because he was like 1 year old or something like that, or maybe a couple months old or something like that. So we were about to visit them and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, well, I actually, because I know my brother and my sister, like, because we used to watch Powerpuff Girls and stuff like that together when we were like, kids and stuff. So I asked my sister, I was like, all right. So I told her in front of my dad, I was like, so, so and so, Kaylin, you've seen Powerpuff Girls, right? Because I know she has. Like, she talks about, cow and chicken. Didn't really like cow and chicken like that a lot when we were kids, but she liked it. But she was like, yeah, of course I've seen Powerpuff Girls. And I'm like, see? Yeah, I'm like, see, she's seen Powerpuff Girls. And he's like, well, she's a girl and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, so if I ask my brother, my brother Mike and stuff like that, that he's seen Powerpuff Girls, he's like, all right, we'll bet. So once we get there and stuff and we settle in, I'm like, I asked my brother, has he seen Powerpuff Girls, which I know he has. And he was like, yeah, of course. And then he was like, wait, you've seen it too? Like, yeah, we've all seen Powerpuff Girls. It's like, yeah, because he doesn't know that it's an action show and a show about these little kindergarten girls kicking ass and stuff like that, and whatnot, and it's a superhero type of show. It's not like a girly type of show or anything like that. So that's the dramatic irony. Is like, oh, they look cute on the outside, but when you watch the show, it's a whole different story.
Kim Possible,
yeah.
Totally Spies.
Yeah, I definitely used to watch Totally Spies a lot.
The Winx.
And yeah, I did not know about the weird stuff that a lot of people were saying with this kind of comes off a little fetishy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've never watched Winx Club before, but I've been kind of aware of it. I do remember some of the boys like at my school, because I have been to like all boys like schools and stuff like that from time to time. Yeah, even back in the day, like, yeah, some boys were saying like, yeah, I've seen Winx Club and stuff like that, or they like the show.
Winx Club, My Life as a Teenage Robot.
Yeah, that's an easy one. My Life as a Teenage Robot with Jenny Winkman.
Atomic Betty.
Okay, these are some personal ones that I had pulled up, but I was like, yeah, remember this, the OG Atomic Betty.
Legend of Korra.
And despite whatever you might think of like Legends
Winx
of Korra,
Club,
and despite whatever you think about Legends of Korra, I'm just being honest. Like, even though, well, outside the criticism, we know that Legends of Korra is an action show and it has a female lead. So, and mostly like the male demographic watched it, right? So wouldn't that not count?
Korra or The Life and Time.
And then this is Juniper Lee and stuff. How many people really remember Juniper Lee? But yeah, I used to watch that as a kid. I also used to have a crush on June. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did have a crush on Juniper Lee when I was a kid. I'm just being honest. Like, I did. I used to think she was like Hispanic or Latino or something, but I was like, oh, well, that would probably make sense that she's Asian because her name is like literally Lee. So, duh.
Times of Juniper Lee back in the day.
But Juniper Lee was one of my cartoon crushes. It's sad the Witch show is getting forgotten when people will list action. I didn't watch Witch too. I like Witch and Winx Club. I didn't watch those two shows, to be honest with you, Ashes. But yeah, maybe I'll probably bring it up next time.
Anime and video games have strong female leads.
Yeah, or how many like animes have strong female leads that like the guys like and stuff, and they like those girls kick ass.
Tifa,
Tifa got announced for Street Fighter 6, and people were like, "Oh my god, Tifa!" And people were like wanting Tifa for Tekken, I think, right, or for Dead or Alive. So yeah, but we got her in Street Fighter, so that's cool. But people like Tifa from Final Fantasy VII. We weren't asking for Cloud Strife to be in the fighting games. We were asking for Tifa. Sakura. Sakura was known for her hands back inside Naruto and her monstrous strength.
Sakura, Hinata.
Yep. The girl Hinata and stuff, Yeah. Chun-Li, the strongest woman in the world inside Street Fighter.
Chun-Li. Kasumi.
Yep, Kasumi, the main character of Dead or Alive. What about her?
Samus Aran.
Samus, the main character inside Metroid.
Bayonetta.
Oh, like a sort of a horror action genre kind of thing. Bayonetta.
Nami.
Yep, Nami.
Nico Robin.
Sailor Moon. I probably shouldn't name some Bleach girls, but like, Rugia, Orihime. Like, guys like these girls and stuff. They look attractive and they can kick ass. Sailor Moon, the Sailor Guardians and stuff, Like, yeah, there's some strong female leads.
Sailor Guardians.
Cardcaptor Sakura. I've seen a few episodes of it, but Cardcaptor Sakura,
Sakura.
Still a classic anime. Jill Valentine, I wanted to use the movie version because I feel like the actress, you know what? It was kind of a disservice that they wasted this actress and stuff, and she really pulled off the look of Jill Valentine inside that movie and stuff, and they wasted her for Alice. That was wild.
Jill Valentine. Claire
Redfield.
Lucy Orphelia.
My girl Lucy from Fairy Tail. One of my favorite anime characters.
Yeah. Urza Scarlet.
Urza.
or Lena Inverse.
And and again, another one of my favorite my favorite animated characters, Lena Inverse and stuff. And Lena, she is OP as hell.
Some of which are the protagonists of an action series. And if DC can dedicate their resources to a Harley Quinn show that ran for 5 seasons.
Yeah, and they put a lot of this time and effort or focus into like Harley Quinn. Speaking of Kasumi, I'm playing her right now in Dead or Alive 6. Nice. I do have and I remember you mentioned before you have Dead or Alive 2, Dr. Hino. Yeah, I think I have either Dead or Alive 2 or 3 on the PlayStation. PlayStation 2. Well, yeah, I have it on PlayStation 2. I think I had, what did I have? I think I had Dead or Alive 5. That was the first Dead or Alive I played. That was on Xbox. But yeah. Yo, what's happening, Taylor? How you doing tonight? But yeah. But I mean, Kasumi is definitely worth mentioning because, I mean, come on, she's the main character of Dead or Alive. So yeah, thank goodness Capcom, and also the champion of the tournament too, by the way. Thank goodness Capcom didn't put Alice in any of the Resident Evil games for promotion. Well, that would be pretty interesting if you could play as Alice, though. I will say. But yeah, no. But as the lead over like Chris or Jill or Leon or Claire, yeah, she kind of snubbed them. So yeah, like for several movies, I can understand giving her maybe 1, maybe 2 movies, but that entire like series of movies and stuff, they really should have had the other characters in there though. But it is what it is.
Teen Titans Go that ran for 7 seasons.
Oh yeah, but back to the Harley Quinn thing. So it's like weird that they put a lot of time and effort or like focus into like Harley Quinn, right? Over Wonder Woman, to the point where they want to make Harley Quinn sort of like the next Trinity member in a way as well, which I didn't exactly bring up because a lot of, if you go to these Comic Cons and stuff a lot, a lot of the girls like to dress up as like Harley Quinn and stuff like that, which is cool. Couples cosplay as like Harley Quinn and Joker and whatnot, which is nice. But or people that are fans of like Batman animated series and they like Harley Quinn, who was an original character from that show, you get the idea. But no. Harley Quinn is definitely not a good example for like young girls to look up to. Now you can probably see her as like either a cautionary tale or maybe she can have a sort of a good redemption kind of thing. But her sleeping her way to like sleeping her way to the top to like become a psychologist and stuff like that, and graduated from college despite getting terrible grades, and then becoming a psychologist for like Joker, one of the most notorious villains of all of Gotham City, who is literally called the Clown Prince of Crime. She falls for him in in one of their first couple of sessions, and then becomes a villainess and becomes like one of his accomplices and stuff like that, and throws her entire life away just for him. Yeah, that's pretty problematic. But yeah, let's push her over Wonder Woman for whatever weird reason, right? And try to also make Harley Quinn like overpowered or strong in the comics when really she's just a psychologist that's really good at gymnastics and stuff like that, and acrobatics and a little martial arts too. And she's got gadgets and stuff like that, but that's really about it. Like that's not enough to beat Wonder Woman or Superman or anything like that, or be like, or with Batman even. So no. Anyways, I just got Dead or Alive Extreme 2 a few days ago, physical. Nice. And I need to get back on playing the Dead or Alive games. I actually did get an Xbox though, so I can get this one Dead or Alive game. Let me search it up real quick. I think it was Dead or Alive 4, because I kind of do want it. Not 4. It was probably Dead or Alive. Yeah, so I can get Dead or Alive 3 on the Xbox, the original Xbox. But I have complications with the original Xbox, so it's a whole lot. What are we talking about? I almost missed the stream. Oh, no, you're fine. I'm just reacting to my video or giving you my director's commentary about my Wonder Woman thing. Previously talked about Tang Shin and stuff. If you want to throw in some stuff, I can definitely answer some of them. We'll get to X-Men 97 after this and stuff, but yeah.
My Adventures with Green Lantern, which is a show about Jessica Cruz, which we're getting before Wonder Woman, which is crazy. A Kite Man show, which is a spinoff of Harley Quinn.
You're gonna do a Kite Man show before Wonder Woman? That's wild. No.
In a Penguin show, they could definitely dedicate more time to.
And again, we're doing Batman villains and stuff. They get spinoffs, but Wonder Woman can't get nothing. Okay, or her sidekicks.
Wonder Woman, who actually is a lot more prominent than a lot of these characters that I just
What is it? It's on the Xbox One as well. Dead or Alive 3. I mean, nice. Jack Quaid voices the lead character, Mark Grayson, Invincible, and stars as Huey. I thought Steven Yeun voiced Invincible, but I know who you're talking about. Jack Quaid, he's the dude that plays Huey. He voices I know he voiced a recent character on Invincible and stuff, and I think because I think you brought this up one time, Taylor, about that guy, and he was like pretty much like, oh well, they're overpaying the voice actors and stuff because Jack Quaid is like a high profile voice actor at the moment. So why are you hiring him to voice this one off character? You know, like it's like you're overspending and stuff like that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Never seen Kite Man. Yeah, I've never seen it either. But yeah, but I know he voices Superman though inside that Marvel Superman show. As villains had a comedic stories than heroes. But yeah, mention it. Am I wrong? Then we kind of get like people doubting that she shouldn't really be a part of the Trinity, and that other characters like Green Lantern, Flash, Nightwing, or Supergirl should replace her inside Batman and Superman's lineup, which that wouldn't make any sense considering that Wonder Woman has been around a lot longer than. Oh yeah, and how people were talking about like, hang on, let me see what Dr. Human's talking about. What I'm trying to say is that I want to fight you with my girl. Oh man, oh man, Dr. Hino, bro. Elena's my girl. That's my main, bro. But yeah, Helena, I like playing her. Yeah, I like playing as her and stuff. You know, the blonde ponytail and everything. Oh man, and her music. Yeah, yeah. That's one of my mains too, man. God, you are a man of culture as well. But yeah. Helena is one of my mains, man. Most of the Green Lanterns and most of the Flashes, like Wally West or Barry Allen or Kyle Rayner or Hal Jordan or John Stewart, you know. And yes, the Green Lanterns that predate her is Alan Scott and Jay Garrett, but you really want Alan Scott and Jay Garrett to be a part of the Trinity alongside. Oh yeah, and I was saying like, yeah, because it's weird how people would like try to say like, oh, Wonder Woman doesn't deserve to be in the Trinity, but it's like, but who would you have in the Trinity? Well, I want Flash, I want Green Lantern, really. So which Flash, which Green Lantern? Because there's many Flashes and Green Lanterns, and that's kind of for a reason. Because a lot of those characters don't like they're good. Don't get me wrong, or they have cool powers. But really think about that though, because the reason why Jay Garrett and Alan Scott didn't stay as Flash or didn't get like a modern reboot back in like the Silver Age was because after the Golden Age and stuff they kind of like they kind of dropped off the hill and stuff like that. And they came out like in the 1940s before Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman came out, I think, 1941 or like 42 or something. But yeah, and then of course we got of course Barry Allen and Hal Jordan, which was kind of the staple for a while. But even then, they kind of also like ran their course too, until eventually we got to like really Kyle Rayner and Wally West and stuff. And Kyle Rayner and Wally West are great characters and stuff. But I wouldn't say that, oh yeah, now they got to take the Trinity away from like Wonder Woman and be a part of either, like be a part, like either one can be a part with Batman and Superman. That's not how that works, because Wally West didn't get introduced until like the 60s, and he didn't really come into his own as the Flash until the 80s. And then Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner, he didn't come in until the 90s. So I'm just throwing that out there. Let's go, Jonah. What's up, yo? What's up? Yeah. Yeah, I love Helena, man. That's one of my mains. But yeah, I need to like rethink what are some other characters that I do play inside Dead or Alive that I would kind of main. I mean, I would love Ryu. Like, of course, I like Ryu Hayabusa, but of course, because of Ninja Gaiden. But I wouldn't say like I'm like that fluent with him per se. But Invincible had a famous cast over waste of budget, as we got filler episode with Tech Jacket as a girl. Yeah, that's true. And I also did want to talk about my anime filler idea video I have coming up. Estimates suggest the animated series Invincible costs around 2.5 million per. Jesus Christ, dang, man, that is a lot. But hey, I'm kind of glad I finished up reading Invincible, so I don't have to like really bother that much with the show in particular, because I'm just like, all right, well, let me just read ahead, because they're going to take forever with the and make random changes to the comics, and I'm not going to like that. So I'm like, all right. So I did what I did. But yeah, so making Amy wear Diana's outfit is more than illogical, as they basically both are neglected. But by the fan base as if making her the main leads is woke. Well, with Amy though, um, how do I put this? I actually was thinking about Amy a little while back though. Well, not a while back, but probably the other day and stuff, and just thinking like, I hope they don't like with Sonic 4 or in general. Like, I hope people don't forget what makes Amy a great character in the first place was that she goes through that whole, you know, development where she goes from like a damsel in distress to becoming more of a self-sufficient type of character that still admires Sonic, and she still is in love with him and stuff like that and wants to pursue him, but she becomes a lot more mature and a little bit more of a selfless hero and stuff like that over time and whatnot. So I'm still saying you need that development, but I hope they don't just give that to her like right away and stuff like that and just be like, she's the best as ever and all that. You know what I mean? Like, I hope they don't do that with Amy. But anyways, Invincible had an original cast, then famous cast to limited their animated budget. Honestly, I don't even care if they got like B-list actors or whatever, just to voice the characters. Just give me somebody with some decent talent and work on that, work on the animation, work on the story or whatever. There you go. You don't need these high-profile actors and stuff to like voice these characters because, yeah, I mean, you could probably have like maybe one or two or something like that to get some eyes on the show, but I don't think necessarily you need to like, oh, every guy, like every person has got to be like a big name actor and stuff, because I think they were promoting the actors the last season the most, more so than they were talking about like, oh, what's to come. So yeah.
Talking about Batman and Superman. And don't get me wrong, Nightwing and Supergirl are both great characters and all, but they're in the shadows of both Batman and Superman, so why make either one of them the adjacent character in the Trinity?
Oh yeah, no, I was saying that too with even with like Nightwing and Supergirl, some people think that they should also replace Wonder Woman. I'm just like, well, Nightwing is an adjacent character to Batman, so it just wouldn't make any sense. And then Supergirl, again, an adjacent character to Superman, so that's not going to work out. Whereas Wonder Woman is her own character; she stands, by her, she stands on her own and stuff like that. And this is a great movie, Batman, Superman, Apocalypse and stuff. Great animation. Wonder Woman looks like a snack here, but yeah, especially in that fight with yeah. But anyways, let me keep playing.
Which that wouldn't make any sense, Like, don't get me wrong, Nightwing's a great character.
We all know the Sonic movies need Sonata. Oh hell no! The only logical ships in Sonic is obviously queer coded. Yeah. Too much of that article from back in the 2020s. I thought about talking about that a few years ago, but I was like, nah. It's like, nah. We already know it's a dumb idea. Look at cross-dressing and the adventures, and oh god, nope. Mm-mm. You see, Ruby got another season. Dang, I didn't even know Ruby got another season. So aren't they in like what, season 10 or 11 at this point and stuff? With Ruby, as much as I want them to kind of in a way continue the series, they need to wrap up this whole thing with the Salem stuff, because that's gone on way too long. Yeah, volume 10, that's where they're at. Yeah, because this whole stuff with Salem is like getting dragged out, and it just doesn't feel like, okay, well, what's getting done with Ruby, In season 4, but that's another franchise where it's again a female lead and stuff like that, and it's mostly a male demographic. In season 4, there are half voice actors who are absent and replace actors that look at William. In season 4, his voice sounds different. Oh, I don't think I've seen season 4 of Invincible, because I think after season 2, I kind of just stopped. Even when season 3 and 4 came out, I was like, Ruby is going to fail in my own prediction, most likely. How are they surviving? They should have been rebooted by now. Ruby had currently 9 volumes. Yeah, and plus I think Ruby had like lost the and that's probably why Ruby went on like a huge hiatus, where I thought it got canceled, because I think Rooster Teeth had like went out of business or something like that.
But he actually didn't really come into his own until like the 90s and whatnot. And then Supergirl, a little bit of the same kind of thing too. So, yeah.
I mean, like Nightwing had went on his own in the 90s. I meant like, even though, yeah, he became Nightwing in the 80s with the whole Titans and stuff and all that, he didn't become a good, like a solo character until he was like in the 90s and whatnot.
Whereas Wonder Woman has always been kind of like a leading character, or she's always been a titular character. So it wouldn't make any sense to just, let's replace her specifically
and replaced her with either Nightwing and Supergirl, who are again connected to Batman and Superman, where Wonder Woman is a standalone character. So it's honestly kind of like people just treat Wonder Woman now, kind of like she's like Sakura from like Naruto, where no matter what. Yeah, I want to at least show my respect for Sakura too, because that character definitely gets a lot of like gets trashed on a lot. But yeah, I'm like, damn, they really treat her like she's the damn Sakura of Naruto, with like Naruto and Sasuke, and I wanted to pull up that meme too, where they're like, oh, this is Team Seven at 95% of their power, and then you add Sakura in the mix, and this is Team Seven at 100%, that kind of thing. That's just like, wow, that's kind of petty and dumb, but okay. What she does, no matter her contributions to the story or her impact, it just doesn't matter because she's just not cool enough. So for me as a kid, whenever I used to like watch Justice League or I had like the DVDs and the VHS tapes, Superman, Salem and the Grims is treated not as a serious threat, treats like cartoonist anime tropes that receive searches they can found on anime tropes. Well, yeah, the Grims are treated more so like cannon fodder for the most part, and I guess Salem is supposed to have control over them. But come on, 9 seasons of them just to get to this point, where exactly are we at with like the whole Salem stuff, and where exactly like are we getting any progress? Do we get any like answers about like what was Ruby's mom's name? About her mom or what's Raven's whole deal? Yang's mom, like all that stuff. Like yeah, like what's the deal with all that? Batman and Wonder Woman were always
Silver Eyes
on the
give you other
cover,
powers.
or always like,
Oh, it can affect Grim, but that's it. Like that's it. Like okay, that's kind of lame.
side by side with each other in the front row. They also had plenty of storylines together as like a trio where it wouldn't really make any sense to kind of replace her specifically. I was thinking about showing the VHS tape or searching up the VHS tape stuff that I was talking about, but I was like, you know what? Let me just pull screenshots of like title cards or shots of them side by side and stuff like that. Just for like opening credits and all that. Like, yeah. What else? Because again, they're all like side by side. This from that episode for the Man That Has Everything. Great episode with the Trinity. Again, Marvel's Trinity. The MCU hasn't actually been this. And there was another episode with the Trinity as well, with Deadman, that was a pretty good one too. Same, since they kind of killed off Iron Man and retired Captain America. Yeah, Summer. They replaced him with Ironheart and Falcon. Thor's around, but they kind of made him a little bit silly and lackluster. Right. Even if the characters aren't exactly like to your price. Yeah, I had to search around for some screenshots of like just Thor, Captain America, Iron Man together. But this is a pretty good episode though. I'm thinking about rewatching Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. But this episode was when where Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man get depowered, and like they're in like this is like Captain America before he got the super soldier serum, where he was a scrawny like looking guy and stuff, and not the muscle bound like super soldier that we know him to be, but he still has a heart. This is Iron Man, his old like armor and stuff, like his first armor, the either gray or goldish kind of armor that was all bulky, and yeah, they're like, yeah, let's kind of change that to be like red and gold. And then this Thor as Don Blake, because in case you guys don't know, Thor in the comics, which I guess I'm giving you guys a lot of insight about Thor, but I don't think a lot of people would know this, but Thor back in the 60s actually used to have a secret identity, or a mortal identity to be more specific, that he calls it, called Dr. Don Blake, where he was a paramedic and stuff like that. And he used to walk with like this walking stick and everything as Dr. Don Blake, because he was just a regular human and stuff when he came to Earth. But when Dr. Don Blake, whenever there's like crime or something like that, Dr. Don Blake would take his like walking stick and then strike the ground, and then the walking stick becomes Mjolnir, and Dr. Don Blake becomes Thor, pretty much. So that's how Thor's powers kind of used to work a little bit back then. But if Thor's like separated from his hammer for like more than 60 seconds and stuff, then he'll just turn back into Dr. Don Blake again and stuff like that. So yeah, so a lot of people don't know that with Thor and stuff, that yeah, like if you really like read back in the like classic 60s comics and stuff, that was Thor's whole like, yeah, one of his things. Not enough accuracy. Tony's original armor should have been covered in Chinese communist blood. Yeah, he would probably have to get those stains out. Can you do a respect of Ruby Volume 10 coming up and talk about Salem and the Grim and the Waste of Seasons? Just went request video that I was curious about. To be honest with you, I didn't even watch season 9 of RWBY. I really should have stopped it a lot more sooner, but I think the last time I watched RWBY was actually season 8, and then season 9 I was kind of like, nah, not really interested. And then of course that's when they got Blake and Yang together, which that made no sense. Especially like it was kind of weird too because they're really setting up Blake and Sun and stuff. Like Sun, he literally accompanied Blake back to her village and everything, met her parents. At first Sun didn't really get along too well with her dad, but they eventually came around and stuff like that. He earned their respect. So it just feels disingenuous to like just throw that out the window and just be like, all right, well, because of shippers, let's get Blake and Yang together and whatnot. Even though Blake and Yang don't really have that much, even though they're on the same team, they don't have that much like interaction with each other like that. So it's like that's pretty weird. But anyways, to answer your question, I'm not even sure if I will or not. But anyways, but we'll see.
Preference and stuff, they're still like three pillars of Marvel Comics. And no matter how many Spider-Man movies that you can put out, it's not going to fix the foundation of Marvel.
And that's what I was trying to say about with DC is like, look, right now with DC with Superman, it's weird with Superman right now because they're trying to make him into the ideal character that society has in their minds is like this is what Superman is supposed to be like when it's really not, and then Batman, yeah, kind of oversaturated at this point, but still they kind of need to do something a little bit if they're trying to do this cinematic universe thing. And then Wonder Woman and kind of a no-show and stuff. So I was like, what's the deal with that? So it's like, all right, well, if you can't get your Trinity together, it doesn't matter how many Batman movies you can put out or Batman spinoffs or whatever. It's not gonna make a splash. It's not gonna do anything. It'll probably be a temporary success, but it's not gonna be like a good decision in the long run, in my honest opinion. I stopped at volume 4. Dang. Blake should be with Sun then Yang. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it makes sense for her to be with Sun then Yang, more so than not, because they were really building that up and stuff. Recommend watching RWBY Volume 9. Taylor, I know you're trying to get me to get pissed off about that. No, I'm good for right now.
And it's kind of the same with
again, we'll see. I'll think about it.
DC, where they double down on Batman movies, cartoons, games.
And like I was saying, like at this rate, them trying to double down all this Batman stuff every time they have a setback, like, oh, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, that was a flop. So let's put out Batman Arkham Shadows. Why? Like that wasn't like, for VR and stuff like that. It's like, oh, because Batman will get us out of this trouble.
But if they can't get Superman and Wonder Woman right, then what's the point? Like these characters might as well go into public domain sooner rather than later. That's like one of the many reasons why the
Yeah, I believe you, Taylor, that it probably is on YouTube right now. Yeah, because RWBY used to I used to watch RWBY on YouTube a long time ago because it was a web series that they used to put on and stuff on the Rooster Teeth channel for like YouTube and stuff. But then eventually, like RWBY kind of like became a little bit more bigger, and then yeah. So I get what you're saying. Oh God, it would be terrible. That RWBY and DC crossover. Yeah, that was something.
DCU
I didn't watch it though.
is a failure for starting the Creature Commandos
designs out
or Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, whatever, Superman, Supergirl, and then Clayface as if it's like their phase one and not like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, or a Justice League related character like Aquaman, Green Lantern, or Flash, or Martian Manhunter or something. And say what you will about the DCU, at least it gave a lot of the other characters spotlight, like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, who definitely could have needed it.
Yeah, that was what I was saying too. Like with the DCU, like outside of all that Zack Snyder stuff or whatever, just like I'm just saying, hear me out. Like he was definitely like giving a lot more attention to the characters that really do need it and stuff. Like he noticed that. And Zack Snyder, he actually is a comic book fan, so he knows. But I feel like they just got rid of him because, well, the online discourse, some of the controversial takes, and or I guess like stuff about the movies. And then on top of that, like Snyder was actually like, an advocate reader of the comics and stuff like that. And they were like, nah, get rid of him and stuff. Let's get in people that actually don't know the stuff to work on it for whatever weird reason. So I don't know. They just have a hard on for that type of thing.
And it's actually proven that they actually are they are sellable characters because Wonder Woman, the first one, had actually made a lot more than even beat.
RWBY was losing money. That's why they took the seasons off of YouTube to force people to subscribe to their site via paywall. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Wait, they brought it back? Yeah, that's what I'm like with the season 10 thing. I'm like, oh, Ruby's coming back. Ruby had two DC crossover movies. How made sense? Zero sense. Yeah. They did have like two movies or something like that, and I think they even had like a comic too. Like that was weird. I was like, Ruby in the Justice League. Okay, whatever. Well, Teen Titans could have probably made a little more sense, I guess, but not the Justice League. And
BVS, it
then
made
they
like
had
eight
the
hundred
like the Justice League members become like teenagers and stuff like that. It was like, what are you guys doing?
million dollars at the box office worldwide. And Aquaman, we all know that it made $1 billion worldwide too. So it's not like these characters are definitely unworkable or they're not sellable and stuff like that.
And the reason why I think Aquaman made $1 billion is because I think like it was a part of the DC EU and stuff, and because people were like looking forward to seeing more of the DC EU and stuff, the numbers kept rising and rising because uh, Man of Steel was like 600 million, I think. Yeah, 600 and something $1 million. That's what it made at the box office. And then BVS was like, even though I know a lot of people have a lot of hatred for that movie and stuff, BVS was like 800 something million, or no, 700 something million. And they're like, well, it should have been more. It should have been $1 billion instantly. Well, that's probably because DC didn't build it up too much and they rushed to just doing the movie and whatnot. That's not on the fault of Zack Snyder. That's not on the fault of Henry Cavill or Ben Affleck. They just, again, if they actually did like a Batman movie as well and another Man of Steel 2 movie and like alluded to, oh, yeah, these two are about to cross over. Oh, yeah, they definitely could have made a lot more money than they made with that movie, but they still made it. It was still a success, though, right? Then Wonder Woman made like 800 something million, which was more than BVS, which is like, okay, proof that, again, the character can definitely stand on her own. And then Justice League, and then we had Aquaman, which that made $1 billion. And I'm just saying that's because it was part of the DCU and whatnot. Although I thought, the movie was pretty fun. It was a fun movie and stuff. I love the costume designs and everything and the shots and everything. It looked great. But I understand that some people probably weren't really too into it because it was like a little campy a little bit or a little, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that DCU definitely had a lot of studio interferences.
Let me see that comic Justice League with Ruby. They share the same universe with two phones, WB or something. Yeah, I think WB they had ownership over like Rooster Teeth, so that's why they did it with the whole Ruby thing. I guess I don't know.
And stuff like that, the sequels. Yeah,
I guess I'm enjoying this DC Sonic crossover though. Yeah, I guess there's that. But I'm saying like the real movies that like killed the DCU, it wasn't stuff like, oh, it was Wonder Woman, it was Aquaman, it was BVS, it was no, or it wasn't Man of Steel. It was stuff like Birds of Prey.
Yeah, they kind of sucked and
Wonder Woman 1984
stuff, but honestly, that's
Shazam.
Probably because they got rid of like
Fury of the Gods, by the way, The Flash.
Snyder,
it was stuff like that.
Who was honestly
Aquaman, Lost Kingdom, where again they went in a more jokey comedic route and nobody liked that. And it was the same thing with the Whedon cut, where people didn't really like the Whedon cut of Justice League. Now, when I saw the Whedon cut of Justice League, I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was okay. At first, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was like, all right, it's whatever, I guess. So it was a little bit like Avengers, but I didn't know that the guy that directed Avengers worked on Justice League. So I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. But once we got Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, I was like, wow, this feels a million times better than what we got with the Whedon cut. And I only seen the Whedon cut only once, and I'm like, yep, this is automatically better.
They kind of carrying a lot of that stuff, or he was really, doing one hell of a job directing, but then they thought, you know what?
And I really do mean, like, yeah, Zack Snyder really did care about what he was doing and stuff. Like, this man literally wrote up three storybook book pages or whatever of like I think of BVS, and I'm like, good God, three books worth of like of storyboards and everything. And I was like, wow, that is crazy. So I think, and honestly, I think with Zack Snyder's vision and stuff, like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like Zack Snyder's vision. Well, I think with his vision and stuff, they can really fully bring to life Jack Kirby's vision, actually, because we see how Marvel disrespects Jack Kirby and a lot of his characters or the Eternals and stuff like that. So, I think Zack Snyder can definitely do that fourth world stuff a lot more justice and whatnot, more so than whatever we can get currently and stuff like that, where everything has to be like, oh no, it has to be comic booky. It got to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. Cool. Off topic. Had a discussion about 2012 Karai should have been in the space arc, and I just don't know why, since there was no spot for her considering the future toy. April and Raph got the most development. Oh, never really thought about that, but nah. I think Karai's fine. I don't think they should have just like, yeah, yeah. Like, I don't know about bringing Karai into outer space. I mean, I wouldn't be necessarily against it, but nah. I'm like, nah. It all worked out with April and Casey because they're the core members of part of the Turtles group, anyways, more so than Karai is. Same video of Ruby casted about Greenlight season 10. I like this. I liked his vision, but WB went idiocy. Yeah, and scumbag. Yeah, they definitely did. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, yeah, Zack Snyder, he really could have, like, he was really bringing to life all that Fourth World stuff and like Dark Side, Apocalypse, all that stuff, the New Gods, like all that stuff is like the stuff that Jack Kirby had created and whatnot. But yeah, even with Superman the animated series and stuff, I know I sound like a little bit of a broken record. I'm thinking about doing a video about the whole comparison between the DCAU to the DCEU and the DCU thing, just for fun, to kind of just put this out there. But yeah, even those guys, the DC, like with the Superman the animated series, they kind of wanted to bring in like a lot of the stuff with Jack Kirby because they were huge fans and they respected him and stuff like that. Ruby season 10 is going to be greenlit. Who's excited? Not me.
Let's listen to the people online and let's just get rid of Zack Snyder because he has to be the problem. Right.
Then we saw
And we
when
see
you
how
about
that
the
like how
equation.
that turned out for
And you
him.
guys had the opportunity to bring him back with
And
Justice
I know that they were supposed to have like an Aquaman cartoon, which they
because I was saying like with Justice League, all right, well, forget about the whole humble beginnings and all that stuff. They still could have picked up after Justice League with Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League and stuff because we could have been getting Dark Side and all that stuff right now. Because I'm like, Marvel literally just got done with Thanos. And who's the next best villain after Thanos? Oh yeah, Darkseid. Even though I know it's a DC and Marvel, but I'm just saying, like, literally, even though they were created by the same guys and stuff, Thanos was based off of Darkseid. So it kind of feels weird to not use him, but then they use, I don't know. So it is what it is.
did, but it was like some weird parody comedy thing, which nobody wanted, which that's on the level of like Teen
Yeah, who remembers this Aquaman show? They were trying to do some weird parody comedy thing.
Titans Go with some ugly ass character.
And I was like, man, they really had an opportunity where they really could have been doing something with Aquaman. And then they sabotaged this whole Thundercats Roar, Teen Titans Go look about it. And I was like, God, this is stupid.
The designs that
Why'd
they
you
have for the
guys go
characters.
this
So
route?
yeah, of course that's not going to like do any kind of brand damage to Aquaman as a character, or that canceled Wonder Woman video game. So it's like, how can you guys fail this hard with these characters, which I will never understand.
The fact that they didn't listen to us more, and yet those toys continue to sell years after is very telling. Yeah, exactly. It is very telling because I'm like, yeah, because they look cool in it and stuff like that, and they looked interesting, or we really could have seen more of that story aspect about it. And it kind of does kind of go to show or tell you a lot about, well, and I hate to like put down the whole like the anti-American and the whole Western culture or anything, but it really shows you about our sensibilities over here in the West, where a lot of people will just accept whatever or accept the like brain rot in the West, but then overseas and stuff like that, a lot of those guys are like, why'd you stop? That was actually pretty interesting. Or this actually, because you don't see a lot of people online in other countries and stuff bashing a lot of these like movies that a lot of the people over here bash and stuff. They think, oh no, that's actually pretty intriguing, or that's really deep and stuff to do that with those characters. Imagine Snyder directing the Sonic movies. I bet he would get the stuff from Archie and Fleetway and Sega of Japan would immediately put a tantrum over it. I ain't gonna lie, Ashes. That thought had kind of crossed my mind. I don't really want Zack Snyder to direct Sonic per se, because Sonic is a different type of tone. Definitely do not give it to James Gunn or Taika Waititi. Please do not give it. Neither of those idiots, because they're going to really screw up Sonic. But but it just gives me like Ken Penders kind of vibes a little bit, where Ken Penders had that idea with Sonic Armageddon. But I don't think Zack Snyder would do something that crazy with Sonic though. But yeah, collective consciousness. Yeah. So, anyways,
And yeah, so I get that the DCU has like Lanterns on the horizon as a TV show, which is something. But they cast an old Hal Jordan and kind of showed no aliens in either trailers of
Yeah, and I'm just like this Lancerns thing because I've talked about this before and I've went on a tirade, but I'm like, honestly, the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern, like even as a kid, I never really saw why people had it against that movie and stuff like that. Now that I'm older, I do see the CGI, well, at least on the costuming, was kind of a little bit all right. The costume probably wasn't all that, but outside of that, and I just rewatched the movie after I did my little Superman review last year, and I'm like, yeah, I still don't think it was that bad of a movie to be honest. Like I thought it was all right, but Lanterns, I'm like, this show looks boring. Like they're in the middle of nowhere. Kyle Chatler doesn't look nothing like Hal Jordan. He looks like way too old, and then the costume looks terrible. Right here, he's using the money, or he's using an energy construct to use it as like money and stuff. And I'm like, when has Hal Jordan ever abused the power, like of the Power Ring to do something like that? Like that doesn't
about a show about
or like John Stewart. No,
two intergalactic space cops, partly using their powers. But since I'm
look, his costume looks bad. No domino mask, nothing.
kind of on the topic about movies and stuff now, let's actually get into the hatred about Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman 1984. And look, I know the difference between criticism and just outright hatred, but the amount of hit.
Oh yeah, this is my part where I was defending Gal Gadot because I'm like, I am dead ass. Like I'm like, damn, why is this actress getting attacked this badly, or why are they trashing her? Like why are they trashing her and stuff like that, like this badly? It's not like yeah, because like especially like that made me kind of unsubscribe from like Justice Bell because I subscribed to her, and I kind of mentioned this in the other stream where she just put out that video and stuff talking about like trashing Gal Gadot and stuff. I'm like, so are you just trying to chase trends or something like that, or like what? Because I'm like, what is this guy like? What does this accomplish? Like I don't know. Like I said, it just felt catty and stuff like that, and I was just like, all right, nah, I'm out. And like that's how this is gonna be because I'm like, yeah, because I don't think Gal Gadot's really like deserved to get like antagonized and stuff like that. And it's kind of to the point where I'm like, yeah, it's really on that level of like Hayden Christensen levels of hate, where he played Anakin Skywalker, and then whenever he tries to audition or play as something else, that's all they see him as, just Anakin Skywalker, because they're like, oh, you're not Anakin Skywalker, you're not Darth Vader and stuff, you're lame, you suck. All you do is talk about the sand and stuff like that. Oh, I hate sand, even though I don't even think that was even a cringe scene. I thought it was actually pretty nice, but okay. Anyways, imagine Absolute Sonic. God, no, it'll probably be like that Ben 10 reboot. We need Boom Eggman design maxed with Bane's level of chaos. Should kill the echidnas like Sandman. Kill Peters once. I don't know about that, but yeah. They'll be doing a little bit too much. Or he'll be like a sentient egg that just gets turned into a human or something crazy.
Hit pieces and people attacking her online is honestly on that Hayden Christensen levels of hate, where she kind of starred as like a major character.
No, I think Hayden Christensen did a good job playing as Anakin Skywalker, even though I know he's the one that has played him as like Anakin Skywalker in the prequels. But still, well, besides that other kid that played him in the Phantom Menace, but still.
An established franchise, and no matter what else that they do,
people were really hyped to see him, back in Ahsoka. That's for sure.
Another movie, they always get bashed on 24/7. And if you ask me, it's kind of like an echo chamber at this point, where people just strawman that certain line deliveries out of context and just judge her acting based off of that alone, as if like Kal-El No is an accurate representation of like Gal Gadot's acting in general. Like we're really going to have like selective memory about her scenes from Wonder Woman, like No Man's Land, the bank heist from Justice League.
Yeah, she had a lot of great scenes.
Her scenes with Bruce Wayne or her scenes with Steve Trevor, like etc. And people think that they actually need to like have range in order to act, where you really don't.
And what I mean is, a lot of people use acting as like an umbrella term, but I feel like there's other ways of like acting than just one way to approach it, which is everybody thinks that you need range and stuff like that. I mean, it can be various other things, Lucas is the only one to blame for writing cringe dialogues. I mean, like, that's the thing. I didn't think the sand thing was even that cringe. I was like, oh, it's all right. He was trying to be a little poetic, but also, he's trying to flirt with Padme a little bit, but also talking about how I hate Tatooine and stuff like that. And it's just a reminder of my horrible life or my horrible childhood and stuff. And then the loss of my mom now. So yeah, that's what it that's how Anakin felt and stuff, But I just feel like a lot of people just went a little bit too extra with that whole thing.
to me, acting can vary from like portraying yourself to portraying someone else to having charisma or just having the physicality when needed. Ryan Reynolds, he plays himself in a way as that fast talking, vulgar comedian type of character, right? But we still showed up where he has that pull as like Deadpool or Detective Pikachu. Because if you watch Detective Pikachu, honestly, I think Ryan Reynolds kind of carried Detective.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think Ryan Reynolds kind of like as far as acting wise, I think he carried Detective Pikachu because yeah, he was kind of just being that fast talking like jokester kind of character with Detective Pikachu, but I still liked it. He was still like very like he had a standout performance or he had the most charisma or oh yeah, I would definitely love to go watch a movie about this guy and stuff like that. Or there was this other movie. What was that movie called with the imaginary friend and stuff and this little girl and stuff? And he was like, and Ryan Reynolds was like, he was supposed to be like a clown or something like that. Um, that was a part of the girl's imaginary friend or something like that. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I saw that movie too a few years ago, and yeah, that was pretty solid. He was, again, the breakout character, or not the breakout character, but he was the standout. He had the standout performance in that movie.
Pikachu, that and the the character designs for Pokemon. That's about it. And the acting in there, yeah, especially from Justice Smith and stuff.
Yeah, Justice Smith. I was like, yo, his acting is, yeah, it's like his acting is just so bad. Like it was so bad, and everybody else was like a little bit over the top. Despite lack of excitement and curiosity about Volume 10, I'm going to watch it, see how it ends. I've seen it all, Volume Ruby. I'm waiting for Volume 10 for 6 years. Dang. But yeah, I guess, yeah, it'll be nice to see how it ends or how they wrap it up, even though it shouldn't have taken them 10 seasons to do all that. To get to Salem out of all this time, like, okay, cool. But anyways, but yeah, yeah, and I remember my aunt, she saw that movie. Well, okay, and I think I kind of saw that movie too a little bit from home. So remember that movie? What was it called? The Society of Magical Negroes. Yeah, that joint. Like, I mean, of course, I knew it was bad because of like going into it. I didn't like watch it. Like my aunt just like she was watching it downstairs, and I was just downstairs and stuff like that. And she was like, "God, this is so bad." Yeah, she was like, "His acting is so bad." And stuff. And she was just trying to like find the silver lining in it. It was like, well, at least for the director, at least he can probably tell his mom that at least he made a movie. Like that's the only compliment she can just give. But everything else is like, wow. Even the actors that she's seen before and other stuff that can do better than this, she was like, you guys are too good for this role. Like what are you guys doing here? And I just like, since she went upstairs and stuff and it was already almost over, I was like, all right, I might as well finish watching the rest of it. But yeah. And then on top of that, like Justice Smith was supposed to be like acting like he was interested in this girl, but then, Justice Smith is kind of gay and he is just like, wow, he has no chemistry or like literally zero interest in this girl. My aunt was saying that he kind of looks like a hot mess. I was like, yo, he needs to change his outfit. She was like, yeah, he needs a haircut in that movie and everything to look better. To be fair, nothing can top the acting in The Last Airbender in terms of awfulness, even Megan Fox. Yeah, everybody was so dry inside that Last Airbender movie, Like it was weird. I don't know if it could have been the direction or something or what, but yeah.
Yeah, no. And then we got Bryan Cranston and stuff. He has a good range playing Hal from like Malcolm in the Middle, where he's the goofy,
Granted, I've not
bipolar
Bad,
dad and stuff like that.
Stuff
and he plays Walter White inside Breaking Bad.
But
So, or you got some people like Johnny Depp who just own the roles, like Captain Jack Sparrow and stuff. People show up for Pirates of the Caribbean mainly for Johnny Depp because, Captain Jack Sparrow is just such a career.
I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit concerned about the barrel thing right here because it's been a while since I played Carnival Night, so I was thinking like, all right, well, let me get off it quickly as possible, or like go under it, which almost got killed. But
charismatic character, you can't imagine anyone else playing that character besides him. Or you have Bruce Lee from the Green Hornet, where his character was a lot more favored than Van Williams, the guy that actually was playing Green Hornet, because he actually brought martial arts and philosophy to the table. It's also like writing. If you're a writer and you're actually good at writing horrors, but you're not exactly like good at writing something like a rom-com, then you get commissioned to write a rom-com and it flops. That doesn't mean that you're a bad writer. It just means that rom-coms just aren't your niche. So the same can definitely be said with action.
Even with certain like manga artists. Like manga artists have certain things that they're good at or that they stick with. But when they like get something like a curveball thrown in their way, like, oh yeah, like let's say Akira Toriyama, like, oh yeah, well, Akira Toriyama, you're good at writing, right? Yeah, I think so. Well, can you write about a romance? Well, it's not my thing, but I guess I can try, that kind of thing. I would say everything was awful in the last Airbender, but actually Zuko, Iroh, and Zhao were all right. At least their actors were trying to play characters. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some that hurt. Like, and they had that moment with Zuko where he was like, contemplating or just thinking, man, I really burnt down this village. Where he really looked like, yeah, he definitely had like regret and remorse. So I'm saying that there are probably some diamonds in the rough right there, where they could have been better. But yeah, the direction, and then on top of that, something like it just with the last Airbender, like it's a far cry from the cartoon because the characters actually were very charismatic and they had a little bit more energy and they acted like kids and stuff like that in a way. Whereas in the movie, it just felt like it was like one big documentary for the most part, where they were just like, and I don't even think they even acknowledged Aang's crush on Katara either. So
acting. Or since we're kind of on the subject of like comics and stuff, a comic book can definitely still can kind of convey a story without any kind of dialogue, as long as the artwork can actually solely inform us about what's actually going on. But again, Gal Gadot's acting is actually kind of mid, and not a problem as people are trying to make it seem like it is. And to me, it kind of does kind of come off as like xenophobic to constantly like belittle this like.
And again, I'm not one to pull that card, but it does seem kind of xenophobic though, because I'm like, all right, so now you guys want to attack this foreign woman, and like it kind of makes us as Americans look bad because we want people to come to this country, right, and stuff, and we want we want people to come to this country, and we want to accept people or immigrants and stuff. But how are we going to accept them if we're just going to like do all this, that, and the third? It just makes us look bad, like terrible neighbors.
Like foreign woman who actually migrated to this country, and everyone just wants to all of a sudden attack her because she's Israeli, but I know they won't directly say, oh, it's because she's Israeli, but honestly, it kind of comes off that way. And I'm not really that type of guy that likes to pull that whole xenophobic race card or anything, but I think it's probably because
I was really trying to get up that.
They want to be xenophobic now, because I've never heard this criticism of Gal Gadot back in like 2017 or 2016 when she played Wonder Woman, or 2017 or so on and so forth. Not until like in recent years where people want to like.
Yeah, I remember people were hyped to see Wonder Woman. They were, oh snap, Wonder Woman in BVS, that's crazy. And then she's getting her own movie and stuff like that. Was
make compilations. Look how bad of an actor she is. Is she though?
So that means you're racist for disliking The Last Airbender, since the director is Indian as well as most of the actors there. That's funny. Of course not. But it's just like, that just wasn't a good movie. But yeah.
But okay. And yeah, ice is the problem, right? Which is very annoying to me because Gal Gadot's name is.
And I'm just like, oh, well, I thought you guys liked immigrants and stuff, or you wanted to be kind to your neighbor. Why can't we just be that way?
Like a problematic actress. Like, if anything, Gal Gadot.
But yeah, I can understand if she was a problematic actress and she said a lot of terrible stuff or whatever, then I can be like, all right, then I can understand the hate wagon. But to be honest, though, she hasn't really done anything that justifies it, in my personal opinion. So I'm like, so why continue to keep bashing her, or everybody hopping on this train that, oh, well, she was never a good actress. People only like her for her looks and stuff. Like, what? Okay.
Very kind. She's very nice and stuff. Never, as far as I know, I don't think she's ever said any anything ill will about the fans. Never trashed people or anything like that. Not like her co-stars, like Rachel Zegler or something. Not like Ezra Miller, Ezra Miller, he's done a lot of fuckboy shit and stuff like that. He is the definition of a problematic actor. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But Gal Gadot has never done some dumbass shit like that, right? Compared to like Ezra Miller, or like.
I got all the rings, by the way. I just don't want to go super because I don't want to run into some kind of obstacle, and I don't think I was sure because it's been a little bit of a minute since I played Sonic 3.
Like Millie Alcock, like recently with the Supergirl stuff. Anyways, Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't a good movie. That is true. But ever since that movie,
yeah, Like, to be honest with you, with Wonder Woman 1984, how do I put this? So, yeah, I didn't like it at first because I thought they were trying to like be like, oh, Trump derangement syndrome and all that with that movie. That was just me and stuff, or what I got out of it. But it's whatever. But that one, that was weird with the whole Pedro Pascal thing and the whole Maxwell Lord, blase blase. But they were trying to do some Lex Luthor stuff from like the Christopher Reeves movies and all that. Okay, whatever. But the amount of hate that movie gets and stuff was like, hmm, like, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I do agree, Doctor. You know, it was dumb, and honestly, I would have preferred them just to put a Wonder Woman movie in modern times and just be like, oh, well, let's do another period piece by having her in 1984. For what reason? You know, like for what reason and stuff? Because we know she's going to survive, so why not just put it in modern day and stuff? And we can probably get some more stuff from her world. You know, we could probably get Vanessa Kapatelis and stuff, aka Silver Swan. Could have gotten Cassie Sandsmark, Wonder Girl. We could have gotten Donna Troy and stuff. Who also used to go by Wonder Girl or Dark Star, all this stuff. So, I would say like, yeah, that's what they should have been doing. Or, like I said, they had Linda Carter show up in that post credit scene. Then I'm like, okay, well, why didn't you just have her like team up with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman? That could have been interesting to see them in the same room together, or something. Like give me something. But anyways, my point is though, a lot of people really hated on that movie, but I gotta call shenanigans on that because a lot of people like the James Gunn Superman, and I'm just like, so wait, if you like the James Gunn Superman for being superhero hijinks, wacky, goofy, kind of like a B movie kind of thing, then why are you crapping on Wonder Woman 1984? It's like kind of like essentially almost the same movie, a little bit better in my opinion, but still. But anyways, uh, speaking of Avatar: The Last Airbender, seeing season 2 of the Netflix is the worst. Yeah, I kind of gave up on the Netflix live action Avatar thing. Like I said, I left it at that with the first season where I was like, it looks underwhelming for the most, or not looks, it was underwhelming for the most part. It's not bad, not half bad at least. It's better than the movie, of course. That's a given. But it's kind of just an underwhelming show. There are some things where I'm like, all right, Sokka was okay. I can't remember if I said Zuko was okay or not, but everything else though was like, everything else was off. Everything else is just off. Anyways, changes in skipping episodes from the original to have Suki and Aang gang, and they killed off Jet in the library episode. Okay. Yeah, Wonder Woman 1984 is dumb. They also changed Iroh and the Painted Lady and the Blue Spirit. Yeah, I've seen some clips online. I think they were trying to hint at like some Zutara stuff, and I'm like, oh, please, dear God, do not do that. Oh man, they're about to do that Zutara stuff in the live action show. I'm like, oh no, 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 don't do that. If Wonder Woman in 2001 or 1997, I'm not sure. They're mindless activists. We all know this. Yep. It could, I would, in 101 1944. You watched that garbage? Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I only saw that first season of the Netflix Avatar and whatnot just to see what it was going to be like and all that other jazz just to get a feel of it. I have not seen season 2. I'm not really interested in watching season 2. I hear Toph is okay for the most part, but everything else, like Azula, Mai, I don't know about Ty Lee, but yeah, Azula and Mai though they just look off, and I'm just like, and they're of course changing up certain story beats. So I'm like, nah, no, thank you. They also made Toph and Netflix knew how to write, despite being knew how to. I guess you mean knew how to fight, despite her being born blindness. They also made Toph in the Netflix knew. I don't know. Well, anyways, let me keep
Yeah,
on this.
flopped. Even though it came out during the lockdowns and Zack Snyder was fired from DC.
Yeah, no, I'm saying a lot of the other reasons to Wonder Woman 1984 could be because of the lockdowns, because it did come out during the coronavirus. I only watched it when it hit streaming and stuff, so that wasn't half bad. I don't remember it being like in theaters like that though. And then what else was there? But yeah, and also they got rid of Zack Snyder, so it was just Patty Jenkins and stuff. And they should have had somebody like, yeah, you can see that whenever you take Zack Snyder away from a lot of those projects and stuff, that's where it kind of is like, all right, it went a little downhill, or it's not as interesting as it could be.
DC has hardly ever batted an eye towards Wonder Woman in any of her projects. Now we get lazy writers, bare minimal
Tom
artwork,
King,
a can
absolute Wonder Woman, even though it's not a bad story though, but it's just like you guys can definitely do a lot more better with this art. Like, what are you guys doing?
canceled video game, trying to correlate LGBT
Cancel the video game, trying to correlate LGBT to the characters and the Amazons, which that doesn't make any sense because they're not like that.
to the character.
Honestly, a lot of them are actually straight and stuff. And the Amazons lore is that they originally were like reincarnated souls of like dead women that were victims of like their male abusers and stuff like that, or significant others that they were with that got killed due to like some kind of domestic violence and stuff. So the Greek gods decided to like resurrect their souls as as like that's how we got the Amazons and stuff like that inside post crisis. But they changed up the story so many times that it just
And the Amazons, when that's never been the case.
in person myself with James Gunn, I feel like he's really trying to fetishize the Amazons, which I mean, don't get me wrong, hot hot women and stuff like that, but it's just like give me the story first and stuff. There are other stuff that I can probably go out there outside of this, but I'm like, yeah, no.
They're part of their mythos, lip service, and constantly trying to like retcon her origins.
Yeah, I also had to bring up Suicide Squad Killer Justice because man, they did her dirty in that video game. Season 1 and 2 of Avatar, it's bad to worse. Yeah, yeah. Which is weird because Avatar kind of got better over time from like season 1, which was okay. Season 2 was better, and then season 3 was great. Had that climactic ending. I bet Toph knew how to write. Despite her being born blind, as she used earth bending to write. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, then in that case, that is stupid. Yeah, Toph shouldn't know how to write. Because yeah, she was born blind. Now, granted, usually for people that are blind or born blind, especially, there is of course Braille, but I don't know if they ever established Braille or anything like that inside Avatar before though. But yeah, like yeah, Toph shouldn't know how to read or write and stuff. I remember even in like Legend of Korra, right in that flashback scene, like there was a flashback scene with Toph and her daughters and stuff, and her daughter Su Yun just got arrested and whatnot for being a getaway driver, and Lynn was pissed off, and she got this scar on her face from their fight and stuff like that. And then Toph was like, "Hey Lynn, give me that report about Su Yin. Let me see that. Here you go." And then Toph tore that up right in front of her face. It's like, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm covering this up. Clearly, that was hilarious. Anyways, Netflix Princess Yue was a waterbender in Virgin. Okay, that's weird. Yue wasn't really a waterbender though. But when she became a moon spirit, that was of course that made sense for her to become a waterbender, sort of. But
And let's not also forget that DC tries to cover up very conservatively with that armor skirt, and even before that, they
I should also put up because they just re-released the 2009 Wonder Woman animated movie, and on that cover, they literally have her wearing the armor skirt, which she's not even wearing that in the movie. So it's like, Jesus, is there some kind of mandate or something that you guys just don't want Wonder Woman in her like shorts or whatever? Like, come on,
try to put pants on her and stuff like that.
this is a bad
So like,
outfit.
yeah, because they're just
No matter how good the art style is, they try to put her in this outfit. It's like, my God, like she's a wrestler. People, wrestlers need leg room, and they need to wear less clothing so that it can't be used against them and stuff like that. Stop trying to put like all this stuff on her.
that ashamed of her, like, oh, her
Unless it's the golden eagle armor or something like that. That'd be
design,
pretty cool.
or oh, her legs showing. And it's one thing to fail, but when you fail, you got to reevaluate what was wrong with it, and you got to course correct and then try again later. Wonder Woman 1984 was non-consequential to the DCU because it was literally set inside 1984.
And that's another thing too that I just felt like it was a turnoff because it's like, well, it's literally non-consequential because we know she's going to survive unless there's time travel shenanigans involved or in play here.
When obviously we know Wonder Woman's going to survive that, and it was kidified compared to the first movie. She
Yeah,
does see
and nobody likes movies that get kidified. I mean, look what happened with Ninja Turtles, where that 1990 movie is like one of the best TMNT movies and stuff. But then once we got to like Well, Secret of the Use was okay, but a lot of people kind of wanted to kind of have like retain the same tone as the first movie did. Then it kind of got a little bit more comedic, oh, a lot more comedic in the Turtles in Time one, or the Batman movies with Batman and Batman Returns, and then later on Batman Forever and Robin kind of got a little bit, yeah, they went a little bit too south with that. Even though I do like Batman Forever though.
GI model and the costume wasn't really all that good. They put Linda Carter in the post credit scene, which that was nice and all, but they should have probably had promoted her in the movie, and she should have been teaming up with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. That would have been a lot more interesting to see actually. Or they should have just set up Donna Troy and stuff. You know, that would have been a lot more better. And then speaking of which, that's actually what the movies try to aim to be like. Is like the Linda Carter show, which was actually the downfall of the Joel Schumacher and the James Gunn Superman movie because they're trying too hard to be like the Adam West Batman show and trying to be too like the Christopher Reeves movie. And not only does
Yeah, and that's my thing too. Is like they're trying too hard to be like the other stuff instead of just trying to do their own thing or have their own agency and stuff. You know, that's what made Man of Steel, what made the Dark Knight trilogy, or the Tim Burton Batman and stuff a lot more successful. Or like yeah, or the first Wonder Woman movie and stuff. That's what made it successful. That it was like not like oh, this is like the jokey stuff from the days of old. No, like a lot of people have outgrown that phase of writing and storytelling at this point. Writers and Netflix forget that Toph in the original Avatar and Korra was born blind. So one scene in the library scene, she can read eating a book and say library is awesome. Who, Toph? Toph hates reading. I mean, she would hate reading because Toph, she's always more of an active or physical, or I mean, if anything, she'll probably just chill and be nonchalant. But reading, yeah, she's like, well, it just doesn't do it for me.
that not stagnate Diana's growth, but also Donna Troy
I tell
and
books,
Cassie
it just
Sandsmarks as well.
doesn't exactly do it for me.
So let me explain the Wonder Girls.
Or like,
Donna Troy
what was that one time when like I think when Sokka like threw that sheet of paper at like showed Toph, he's like, "Hey Toph, we got a problem." Well, it sounds like a piece of paper, but I'm guessing you're referring to what's on the piece of paper. Toph, what's this? Oh my god, people, I'm blind. I can't see.
Troy is the first Wonder Girl where she's either Diana's magical twin sister, created as a playmate, or the adopted sister with amnesia that she had taken in. Donna has the most appearances comic book wise in Teen Titans more than any other Titans member, including Nightwing. But she has never made any appearances in none of the Teen Titans cartoons, the animated movies, and she only has a cameo inside Young.
Yeah, I had to correct myself on that one because she did have a cameo in the DC AMU, which is weird because they aged her down for some weird reason. Whereas Nightwing and Starfire are young adults. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, that is kind of crazy as hell how they have not had Donna Troy even in like the animated stuff at all.
Justice. The only show that actually utilized her was actually Titans, and Titans wasn't even all that good of a show. They also
Yeah, I might have to look at the last couple of seasons of Titans though, because I think the last season I watched was season 3, but I don't know. Not saying it would be any better, but
tragically killed off her son, her
the
stepdaughter, her
actress does look good
ex-husband,
though. I'm not gonna lie.
and they never actually like rectified that.
Be like
They
you
never brought her
person
children
singing
back to
despite
life through the
porn.
multiverse or some kind of future
You can
version
try.
from another timeline or anything like that. And now we're going to enter Cassie Sandsmark. Cassie Sandsmark is the second Wonder Girl who was a part of the Young Justice and eventually became the leader of the Teen Titans. And she's only made a few appearances
Isn't she
inside Young
precious?
Justice and Super Sons. And her placement and characterization, like Tim Drake, was given to Miss Martian and Nightwing, who is
Yeah, I feel like they really jacked her character and like gave it everything to like Miss Martian and stuff. And I'm like, dang, that is wild. And then even the relationship she's supposed to be having with Superboy, yeah, they gave it to Miss Martian.
never a
All
part
that
of the
stuff.
team,
Being the leader of the Young Justice and all that, yeah, Miss Martian.
is never been
I'm like,
close
damn, that
to
is
Connor
wild.
Kent like the
And look, I'm not saying it was a entirely like a bad thing with Miss Martian and Superboy to just be together, but they probably should have just broke up afterwards after a while and just moved on respectively. Like that's how I feel about that. And it's kind of weird too because I'm like, wait, so Dick Grayson and Miss Martian, Megan Moans, well, I'm like, they weren't really that close with Connor Kent, unlike Tim Drake and Cassie Sandsmark. So it was like, what are you guys doing here?
Ladder. And before there's another excuse about Cassie being like boring. They literally had grafted her entire origin and being Zeus's bastard child onto modern one. Even though the relationship with New 52 Wonder
I
Woman,
know Trey McKell has been saying that too, that literally like they literally stole like Cassie's whole entire thing, personality, her entire like thing, the temper, the origin even, and just gave it to modern Wonder Woman. Which he is kind of right though about that. That is true. They like they literally stole like that. And honestly, I kind of noticed too that they kind of stole her relationship with Superboy, and kind of just gave it to Wonder Woman and Superman for a while and stuff. Which I was like, you know what? Don't you think? Yeah, I'm like, if I wanted to see a Superman and Wonder Woman relationship, then I'll just go to Superboy and Wonder Girl, Connor Kent and Cassie Sandsmark specifically. So I'm like, that's weird. And even at one point, like New 52 Superman was like wearing a t-shirt and stuff like that and jeans and no costume. And I'm like, huh, awfully sounds like Connor Kent Superboy, if you were to ask me. So I'm like, yeah, they're kind of stealing from their legacy characters. That's kind of wild.
had with Superman was actually like Wonder Girl's relationship
But
with
yet I get told that the legacy characters are uninteresting, right?
Superboy. So if there's like characters that are unworkable, why do they have to kind of get their agency stolen? Or why is it far fetched for them to like have it very least like give Wonder Girls a dedicated run if Nightwing, Red Robin, Batgirl, Supergirl, or Superboy can
One of
have
my
one? But
This is one of my comics that I have found. It's a mini series of Wonder Girl. She has a 6-issue miniseries. I have issue 1 and issue 5 and stuff. I definitely want to get the rest. But yeah, but I read this recently. I had issue 5 for a while.
both Cassie and Donna kind of play major roles inside Wonder Woman and Teen Titans to not have
This is from Wonder Woman's annual.
one.
Yeah,
And it's
again,
not
one of my
like they
comics.
can't actually like make cutbacks to characters who actually don't need it because we have a Harley Quinn series that's ran for 61 issues, an unnecessary Poison Ivy series.
And again, if you can dedicate these resources and time to these characters, like or these villainesses or characters that are supposed to be villainesses, but you want to give this whole redemption thing that nobody cares about, which I've been finding Harley Quinn comics and stuff like that in the $1 bins. I don't know anyone that's really talking about Poison Ivy's run yet. She's been going on for like 40 something issues at this point now. But yet you can't do that for Cassie Sandsmark and Donna Troy. Okay.
That's been ongoing since 2022, an upcoming Clayface story, and Batman Bad Seed.
Yeah, even Clayface is getting something like what in the world? Which I think that would be interesting though for Clayface to go up against Wonder Woman though. That's just a random idea I kind of had because like really think about it because you have Wonder Woman who originally her origin she was sculpted from clay and became like this beautiful Amazonian princess being kind of character, and then you have Clayface who he was a regular human at first, but then he gets turned into this giant clay monster. So I think that would actually make for an interesting kind of like rivalry, like a rivalry dynamic kind of thing. But what do you guys think? I just like yeah.
By Matt Fraction, which he could have just put this inside that current Batman and Robin run that he was working on. And then we have pointless
Like I can
stuff from like
imagine
last
Clayface getting jealous of like Wonder Woman being like, "How is it that you were sculpted from clay and yet like yeah, just the yeah."
year, like Two Face, Jenny Sparks, and Crypto, the Superdog
Oh yeah,
series.
Jenny Sparks. I think she's a character from the Wildstorm universe and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I remember there was some controversy with that one too, where people were like, "What in the world?" Where she was like emasculating Captain Atom, and I think that was also written by Tom King too. And I'm like, oh god,
So you're telling me that they couldn't just put that with Donna or Cassie or something, but we're getting all this? Okay. And that kind of continues to kind of prove my point that Batman kind of hinders the DC
yeah,
universe.
it'd be interesting if Clayface and Wonder Woman had a rivalry. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that definitely would have been interesting. Or if like really think about it though, like yeah, I was just like, that could actually go well.
Because they can't actually focus on anything else besides just Batman, his villains in Gotham City. And currently, Wonder Woman is actually written by Tom King, who's actually known for a lot of deconstruction stories, who kind of screwed up like Batman, Catwoman, Mister.
And look, there's nothing entirely wrong with deconstruction stories ultimately, but when you do see too much deconstruction and you don't build up your characters again, then it's kind of like yeah. But I guess I'll talk about that a little bit later in the stream too. in a second.
Miracle, Wally West, and Supergirl, and he's been trying to do this with Wonder
Oh
Woman
yeah, I heard he
for
really
quite a
screwed
while.
up Wally
And he
West.
actually introduced a future OC character in
I'm like,
Lizzie,
damn, how do you
who
screw up
has a
Wally
spin-off
West? He was
book for
like one
some
of the
apparent
best
reason
characters back in
over
Cyclops.
Donna Troy and Cassie Sandsmark, where she kind of acts like a Mary Sue, or she's dealing with like campy adventures about
And he was the Flash
corgis
I
and
grew
stuff
up
like
with too.
that. Like
But,
that's kind of what kids and what fans want to see from Wonder Woman, right? And if you want like my opinion of like my own preferences on
yeah, they gave Wonder Woman's newborn daughter Trinity, like, oh, she's got her own story, and it's like, or her own run, and it's like, for what? Like, for what? Why? And it just feels like you just created an OC to like, you just created your own OC and stuff like that to be like, oh yeah, look, this is my new OC and stuff like that, and it's gonna fight an evil version of her mom or Wonder Woman. It's like that. I don't know.
what I would
Okay.
actually like to see from Wonder Woman. I would actually like to see more influence from the Bronze Age and the post-crisis versions.
And that's where I was talking about my preferences a little bit of like what I would prefer, because I do like the Bronze Age of comics, which I'll show you in my community post in a second.
I've been following Wonder Woman comics for a few years now, and my favorite era would actually be the Bronze Age. I just like how it's just a traditional superhero story where she's
One of my comics where she's fighting this guy in the Royal Flush Gang,
just special intelligence in the Air
who
Force
she was
as
kind of
Diana
close with,
Prince,
Diana Prince.
and her alter ego is just Wonder Woman.
Her
This
job.
being the 70s, she was a female Clark Kent kind of thing going on with the glasses and her love for Steve Trevor. She fights villains episodically like the terrorist organization Cobra, Circe, Silver Swan,
Cobra.
Blockbuster, Angleman, Cheetah, and Mars, aka
I really thought I could bounce off the thing and to get the thing. That's why I did that.
Ares. And usually her books was like shared with Helena Wayne, aka Huntress, the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle from the Silver Age.
Okay, I messed up there. I meant to probably say it's really the Golden Age, not the Silver Age. I just said Silver Age because the Bronze Age and the Silver Age is sort of in the same universe, but I meant Helena Wayne is from the Golden Age world where Batman Batman and Catwoman are older and they already have a daughter and stuff like that, and Helena Wayne. So,
but even then, it was a lot more longer than the stuff that we get now, where everything is fast paced and we get charged $4.99 for that. Because even the DCAU, the Justice League Action, kind of pulled from this version, and the DCAU Wonder Woman is like an amalgamation of Silver Age and Post Crisis, where Hippolyta is a blonde and she's like a full time superhero.
yeah, and I was also pointing out some of the differences too. Like when you think about it, because Hippolyta is a blonde inside the Justice League cartoon in the DCAU, just like the Silver Age, but in the other stuff, she's usually like has like darker hair.
Hero, just like in Post Crisis. Justice League Action kind of restored her secret identity, just like in the Bronze Age, but they also pull from like the New 52 and Rebirth versions. And they should actually take some creative liberties from George Perez, John Burns, or Eric Luke his runs to kind of modernize the characters in her world so that
I had to be really careful with the whole trying to control a supersonic, by the way.
they can actually bring in
He's
Donna
just too
part of it.
not harder to control, but like it takes a little bit of a degree of like control and stuff where he's very strong and fast. So
This Cassie and even Diana's black twin sister Nubia, but actually done right. The characters have been around for 80 something years, so there's a lot of history and lore that they actually could pull from, but for some reason they just choose not to, despite being a multi-million-dollar corporation with several divisions that can boost the
they got all
character.
this money.
And it's not like
They
Wonder
can't
Woman
just do
hasn't had like a standout moments or anything that we haven't seen, and like to justify that, oh well, her not getting a series or whatever, because we've seen animated movies and cartoons and stuff like that where she's kicking ass. So it's like, why not have that in the as a
And who wouldn't want to see a show about her doing a lot of this stuff like this?
show? So I don't want to really see her vilified. I don't want to see her as like this man-hating feminist. I don't want to see the Amazons all LGBT because they dress a little revealing and live in solitude away from men, or trying to promote Dreamer as like the new trans Wonder Woman,
This was
which
cool.
that's a mockery on so many levels to like Greek mythology, to women in general, and to the character of Wonder Woman. And something that nobody really wants to see. Let's just be honest. We don't want to see a biological man dressed up as Wonder Woman, unless you kind
Yeah, them trying to push that too. That was kind of dumb. Or that's what they're trying to push currently.
of fetishize that though. or listening to people who actually don't support the character, but then they have several complaints about the character at the same time and not show up to buy the books after they make the changes for them.
Yep. Anyways, let me go to my community post. And just to show you that I'm not a LARPer and stuff, this is if okay, whatever. I'll just show you guys. Just to show you guys I'm not a LARPer. These are pretty much most of my Wonder Woman comics and stuff, or just about all of them. These are some of them from the Bronze Age and stuff. So I like reading these in particular. This is from post Crisis and stuff, like the when it enters in that George Perez era though, which is good too. But but I kind of prefer the Bronze Age a little bit more so than not. More comics and stuff. Yeah, just again showing you I'm not a LARPer. I'm not faking it and stuff. I actually do give a damn about the character and stuff like that, which is nice seeing people definitely coming out now. But I hope people aren't just saying that just for the sake of saying it though. But yeah, my two Wonder Girl comics right here and everything. So yeah, a graphic novel and stuff. So obviously a lot more comics, and then these are the absolutes. And then here's some of the Bronze Age, and I also have this one called Justice League, Wonder Woman in the Justice League. So yeah, yeah. And I just read this one recently. I haven't read this one yet, but I just got these two though. I used this one for the video and that one as well. So yep. But that's that. But anyways, what should I talk about next? I know I was kind of reacting to that thing for a minute and it took up a lot of the time. So it's only like what 23 minutes till midnight on my end. So yeah. Let's see. Four. Oh yeah. I guess I almost forgot the topic about physical and digital media. So I guess I can share with you my thoughts about that real quick before I get into my other stuff. But pretty much yeah. So what do I think about the whole physical and digital media thing? So basically, Sony or PlayStation just announced that in like 2028 that they're starting to get rid of like physical stuffs, and they're going to start going the more digital route. So like stuff like the PlayStation 6 will only accept digital stuff more so than physical. And I'm just like, well, I'm not entirely phased by it per se, but it's just like, all right, well, that just inclines me to want to play more classic games than just play, you know, than play the more modern stuff. But then again, they might have like maybe a few modern stuff later on that might feel a little bit inclined to get, so stuff like that. But I don't really play a whole lot of digital games like that. I will say the only digital stuff I do play is Sonic Origins, which you guys were just watching a second ago. I do own Sonic Origins digitally. I don't have a physical copy of it, so there's that. And I also have TMNT Shredder's Revenge, a digital copy of copy of that on my PlayStation 4 library. But that's the only digital games I have. And then I have you guys might have seen me play Zenless Zone Zero in the past too, so I also have that on my computer. But I don't really play digital like that per se. Most of my games are mostly like physical. But I don't know. I mean, I've always been more of a physical. I always loved discs and stuff, CDs and all that. It's always been kind of my thing since I was a kid. So it's always like, that kind of thing just resonates more with me, more so than not. And then when, especially like, I guess when they started cracking down a few months ago about the whole pirated sites and stuff like that, the pirated anime sites, I was pissed. I was like, why they had to do this to me. So I don't know. So that just inspired me to just want to go out and just be like, all right, well, let me start buying more box sets and stuff, more anime box sets. Like I was already kind of collecting them, but now it's like, all right, well, if it's going to come down to that and stuff where I had to like choose between streaming services or I have to really look around for pirate sites and stuff like that, or that's starting to go out of style, then I need to have ownership of my own like box sets or my own like, collection of DVDs and stuff to keep myself entertained, or to revisit these shows and stuff like that. So as you guys know, I'm rewatching Sailor Moon and stuff like that because I want to talk about it in a future video and whatnot. But yeah, yeah. So I got like 15 more episodes before I talk about this one thing. But I'll get to that in a second though. And I'm actually thinking about getting Bleach the first season on the box set as well. But we'll have to wait a little bit later down the well, not a little bit later, but I might get it next week or something like that. Probably. We'll see. I'm conflicted on that. On one hand, it helps with having more safe space in the room, but in the same time, I'm against playing even single player games only through internet access or subscription. Yeah, that's true. That kind of reminds me of this one prank where because I was thinking like, man, so a long time ago, this is probably like when I was probably around still back in school or something. I remember, you remember how like people used to do those pranks and stuff, those little prank videos. I would never do a prank video, or I would never try to like, or if I do, I'm not gonna like have it like blow it out of proportion because some of these pranks that I saw online and stuff that people were doing at the time, I'm like, man, it is crazy how some of these people can like retain like a friendship after all the stuff that they had done, or a relationship even after all this stuff, like the clown pranks and stuff. Like, oh my god, there's a crazy clown criminal and stuff like that. I'm going to leave you in the dust for the guy to get you and stuff like that. Like, yo, what are you doing? Or oh, I'm cheating on you. Oh, psych, it's a prank. It's a prank. Like, I'm just like, you might want to be careful with that because you can definitely destroy relationships with those type of pranks. That's just my opinion. So there was this one prank where this girl and stuff, she wanted to prank her boyfriend who used to prank her a lot. So what she did was she was gonna pretend like she was gonna have a fight with him and stuff like that, like a argument, and that she was gonna be crazy enough to like throw his PS4 in their swimming pool and stuff like that. And then she'll be like, "But I'm gonna surprise him because I bought him a completely new PS4 and stuff like that." And then it plays out, and she's like, "Babe, I got you a new PS4," and he's like, "But all my memory and my digital stuff was on my PS4, and you just threw it in the water, and I got to do all that stuff that I had did in my video game over again." And she didn't think about that, so I'm like, "Yeah." So be careful with that, like with digital stuff, man. Especially considering we don't have physical media for a decade now outside of console games. Yeah, that's all I play is console games for me, at least. DC Supergirl DCU is not good. Supergirl is a fail right now. Yeah, I know. Hit is definitely a flop. Reminded of killing your friend prank drama that ruined prank YouTuber life. Damn, really? But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like people don't. I don't want to do that. Like as far as doing those crazy pranks and stuff, because I'm like, yeah, that can ruin friendships and relationships. And I'm like, yeah, some of this stuff seems like it's going a little bit too far. But that's just my take about physical and digital media and stuff. I guess I definitely encourage doing digital. If they really are going to double down on this whole digital stuff, either I have no choice but to kind of like compromise, or I'm just going to like, go back to like, because I already play old consoles anyways. Like I don't have a PS5. I don't have a Nintendo Switch 2. Don't really feel like getting a Nintendo Switch 2 at the moment. Um, and I don't have an Xbox Series X. I only have PS4, a Switch, a PS2, and whatnot. And I do have my Xbox 360 at home, and I do have the first original Xbox, which I was telling Dr. Hino because I have Dead or Alive 3 on there, and I got it for that reasoning. But you know, well, I had to see what I can do, how to get that one to work, because I always have terrible luck with the classic Xboxes sometimes. And I do have some handheld stuff as well, like the DS and the 3DS as well. So I do have my own stuff cut out for me, anyways. So I can always go back to, and there's always more games to play on, like even for the PS2 and stuff like that, which I'm like, currently I was like playing Xenosaga before I started the stream and stuff because, yeah. And trust me, that's a pretty long game as is. So there's plenty of games or plenty of fish out in the sea for me to kind of like play with or whatever compared to like, oh, well, I got to get the next biggest thing and drop all this money on it and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm thinking about getting a Wii. Nice. Yeah, I probably need to get a Wii again too. I had one and then it stopped working. It was just a bunch of other stuff going on. But yeah, the YouTuber who uploaded the high controversial killing best friend prank is 2015 is Sam Pepper. Okay. But yeah, but that's how I feel about physical and digital media and stuff. So I'm not in a full panic or anything. I kind of almost was with the whole like when they started shutting down stuff like AnyWatch and what was another site I was going to? Nine Anime and stuff. I was mad when they shut those down because I like to watch the anime online and stuff, especially pirating it. But if that's like how that's going to be, then I have no choice but to kind of get some of the stuff on like Blu-ray or DVD and stuff like that. And that's hence why I use my PS4 for to watch my DVDs and movies on. So, yep, yep. So, yeah, I'm team physical all day. But anyways, what else can we talk about here and whatnot? I do have a list of things that I wanted to talk about for this stream. I already talked about Electro and Logan. I guess we can start to get into the Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff and what I've been reading. So this won't be that long, but you guys might enjoy this. Let me go back to my community post. Avatar Netflix. Nope. I already talked about it. We already know it's a lame show. Or honestly, like, well, to be honest with you, I'm kind of tired anyways of like of I guess the Avatar series. You guys already know I do like Legends of Korra, but for Avatar, like for like them to keep going back to Aang being a kid again and stuff like that, yeah, that's the part where I'm kind of getting tired of. It's like, well, I want the character to grow and progress. Like I'm kind of tired of seeing him and his friends going back to being kids and reliving. Oh yeah, remember the good old days, the 2000s? Yes, I remember. I own. And speaking of physical, I do actually own like Avatar: The Last Airbender, the complete series, all on DVD and stuff like that. So yeah, we can talk about the Netflix Avatar season 2. Yeah, if you want to ask me some stuff, Taylor, feel free to do that. But anyway, let me talk about Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. So yeah, so this isn't. I'm not going to talk about the movies or anything like that. But this is actually what I had like in my comics and stuff that I got from well, obviously my comic book store, where and I wish I could full screen this, but I can't because this is not my phone. But I got these 3 issues and stuff of like Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the original Guardians of the Galaxy from from like the original run of it before like Star Lord, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and all of them. So it's kind of more so like it takes place in the 31st century, so basically like 1,000 years from now, in like the year 3014 or something like that, pretty much. So honestly, these comics kind of remind me a lot of like Legions of Superheroes and stuff because Legions of Superheroes is like it also takes place in the future and it's kind of a spin-off of like Superman and stuff. So this would be like the Marvel equivalent of the Legion of Superheroes, except the characters aren't like teenagers and stuff like that. So basically it's about these characters or this team. So you got characters like let me see. You got Yondu, of course. You can see him right here. We all recognize Yondu from the movies and stuff with the mohawk and everything, but they made him sort of like a bounty hunter instead of like a warrior and stuff like that. So there was that. There's a character called Major Victory. That's that character right here who's holding Captain America's shield. There's this big dude with the gun and everything named Charlie 27. There's this girl Nikki with the head on fire, and then there's this cat man named Talon and stuff. Which that kind of like this character kind of drew me to wanting to like okay, I saw this cover and stuff. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I would probably check it out then because I kind of do like characters with like animal traits and stuff or like animal like type of designs because it's kind of interesting to draw. Hence why I'm a huge fan of like Sonic or Ninja Turtles and stuff because I like their designs. So this kind of got me a little inclined to pick up this comic and stuff like that. So I got it because of this character, and he's pretty cool in the story and stuff. So I'm gonna kind of elaborate a little bit more on it and stuff like that. And reading the comic and stuff, it was really good. I'm not gonna lie to you, like it really has a lot of interesting concepts that happens in the future, where in the 31st century and stuff like that. So let me pull up some examples. Like first off, you kind of got the Punishers and stuff. So obviously Frank Castle has been probably long dead, 1,000 years from the future and all that stuff. So you got a new team, like you got this team of people that call themselves the Punishers. So they're like a vigilante type of group or something that wears like his costume and logo and everything. And they're also like, yeah. So I thought this was pretty cool, like a pretty cool idea. It reminds me of like the Jokers from like Batman Beyond, how, even after the Joker is dead and all, like, these gangsters idolize the Joker to the point where they want to, take his clown gimmick and make it their own. And then you also got some characters like this is actually Doctor Strange right here, as like he had like ascended and became like the ancient one. So he's kind of appearing as like some kind of not illusion, but what's the word? Like I'm just gonna use aberration. I know I use aberration a lot with the Tang Shin video, but he appears as like some kind of aberration trying to advise the new Sorcerer Supreme, which is this character right here. So that's pretty cool. And if you guys don't recognize this character, this is another character from the 31st. I mean, from the 21st century as well. This is actually Wonder Man. And I'm like, wow, like I didn't realize that was Wonder Man and stuff. I was like, holy crap, this guy right here, yeah. But yeah, this is like Wonder Man, and he's in his like 50s and everything. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool and stuff like that. So yeah, and it would make sense too because Wonder Man is a very powerful like Avengers level character that like has all this energy based power. So it only makes sense that yeah, I could see him living for a very long time, even for 1,000 years, and he's like dude looks like he's in his 50s and stuff. And apparently this is another character from the main timeline as well, named Major Victory. Although this is an alternate timeline, but he used to, be there back in the day with the Avengers and all that stuff too. But he's called Major Victory. So, anyways, these are the characters. And then they also have other stuff too, like this chick right here and stuff. Let me try to see her name again. Rancer, I think it's her name. But basically, she's like a descendant of Wolverine and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting and whatnot in this timeline. But yeah, let me check the chat. Seeing episode 1 of season 2 of Aang after the kid is turned into a teen. Yeah, he's lanky now. The kid is lanky, and he's got them bushier eyebrows. I'm like, man, that kid needs to shave his eyebrows. And whatnot. It's kind of a little awkward. Professor Zay is snitching Avatar gang as Zay was eaten by washy tongue for forced shock value. Oh, well, that was, I guess, random and stupid that they had Professor Zay like snitch on Team Avatar to Washington Tong and then Washington to kill him off instead of his instead of him tragically sort of kind of dying. Well, he did die, of course, and yeah, because we saw his remains inside Legends of Korra, because he remained in the spirit library and stuff. Because yeah, but he didn't have any food or water and stuff like that. So obviously he had passed away within time though. So that was crazy. But anyways, but if I had to say like characters that I kind of like, I actually do like this character Talon and stuff. I mean, like I said, I already said I like the whole animalistic design, anyways, of like certain characters, and this kind of just gravitated me to like when I just pick it up and just see what Guardians of the Galaxy is about and stuff, and like be like, all right, well, what was the original Romans about? So I thought he was pretty cool. He's kind of like Nightcrawler in a way, where he's like he likes to joke around. He's very acrobatic and nimble and stuff like that. So Talon here, that's the character's name. He's actually he's actually an Inhuman. So like the Inhumans like Black Bolt, Medusa, Crystal, like all of them and stuff. Well, he's an Inhuman as well, and he's also a student of the Sorcerer Supreme. So I guess he has some training in some mysticism and stuff as well. So he ends up joining the Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that in this version. So yeah, so he's definitely one of the OG members before the team that we kind of know inside modern times and whatnot. So, yep. So I thought this was pretty good and stuff. So I'm actually reading the comics. I only got 3 comics so far of it, but I know that there's more in my comic book store, so I'm gonna go back and like look at it. But yeah, and check out this comic book run. But it is kind of a shame though how like some of these characters are only in like these because we won't really see them a whole lot again in like modern comics and stuff. So I'm like, wow, that's kind of a disappointment because they probably have a lot of writing potential and stuff like that. But yep, just food for thought. So that's what I've been reading or what I've been up to for the most part. All right. So let's see, what else can I talk about? Talked about Guardians of the Galaxy. 4 minutes away from midnight. That's just great. But oh well. Oh yeah, well, I guess we could talk about X-Men '97 real quick. Whatnot. Let me try to check off some of these boxes though, because I like to make a list of things that I wanted to talk about with you guys, so I can keep track of everything. That's okay. I guess we can talk about X-Men '97 real quick and stuff. I guess this would be a lot more preferable than the season 2 of the Netflix Avatar series, Taylor. But anyways, so I'm gonna tell you my thoughts about some of the episodes. So picking up after the cliffhanger where the X Men are like out throughout like different timelines and stuff, we kind of start with like Cyclops, Jean, and Wolverine and Storm in the distant future in the company of Mother Ascani, which is AKA Rachel Summers, and a preteen version of Cable, Nathan Summers. And Forge kind of builds a device to kind of bring them back while Jean and Scott are trying to like they're contemplating on bringing their son back into their era so that they can raise him and erase whatever destiny or fate that he has, even if it means like, okay, well, if he's the key to defeating Apocalypse, they still want to like take him back so that they can raise him and stuff like that because they were cheated out of like raising their son together and whatnot. But at least they get this opportunity with them at least. So there is that. So the first episode was all right, but if I had to say like my favorite episode, I think my favorite episode was definitely episode 2 where it was definitely like I think Jubilee definitely had a lot of great solid moments and really has shown that she's like a really great character and whatnot. So, Jubilee and Sunspot, I mean, they were separated from like the rest of the X-Men and kind of remain in the 90s, but they get recruited a part of like Cable's X-Force along with like Psylocke and Archangel in order to kind of stop Apocalypse and stuff. So we all know that Cable and Archangel, they both have a vendetta against Apocalypse and stuff. Angel, of course, because of what Apocalypse did to him, and then Cable, he's been fighting Apocalypse his whole life. So yeah, so I like how Jubilee really does serve as like the good voice of reason and the moral compass for the team. And like due to her like time with the X-Men and stuff, it really shows that clearly being with the X Force is definitely a lot more different than being with the X-Men because Cable has no qualms about like doing like dubious things in order to get the job done and stuff like kill their enemies and stuff like that. Where the X-Men, I'm not saying that all of them aren't appalled to the idea of like sometimes killing their villains and stuff like that, but they try to refrain from it because they're more, more so heroic characters and stuff. So I really did like that aspect. And then of course, how can I not like the scenes and stuff where well, she did call out Cable and Polaris as well. So Jubilee definitely had a lot of, yeah, a lot of grit. And then of course, her fighting fighting and trying to save the mutants and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. And before people try to be like, oh, it's feminist agenda, it's not feminist agenda because Jubilee actually has not only was she trained by the X-Men, but she was trained by Wolverine personally and was actually Wolverine's sidekick a long time ago and stuff like that back in the 90s, because Wolverine has a very soft spot with certain characters, especially, the younger, girls and stuff. Don't take that the wrong way, but usually like, because he has a good relationship with like Shadowcat and stuff, and he taught Kitty Pryde how to fight. And Kitty Pryde is like a really great fighter inside the Marvel universe and stuff, on top of having intangibility as her powers and stuff, We even saw this in like stuff like X-Men Evolution or Wolverine and the X-Men, where Wolverine was actually pretty close with Shadowcat. Whereas in X-Men the Animated Series, Wolverine is pretty close with Jubilee, just like how he was inside the 90s comics and stuff, where, so it only makes sense that, yeah, of course, Jubilee can fight pretty good herself too and can handle herself against armed people with her powers and all that stuff. So, yeah, she definitely had a pretty good standout moment. And I actually did like seeing Havoc and Polaris and all that stuff as well, and get other characters like involved, which is kind of what I wanted to see in X Men. But anyways, let me see what you guys are talking about. Zay died with a trap. They have a lot of potential. Tell Sega about it. Reread that issue 134. It warms my heart that Archie just casually made Techno, Short Fuse, and Ebony a part of their world. Yeah, they had a little cameo. Stupid idea and lack of logically and serpent path. Excuse me. As Aang and the gang refuse, goes without Appa as they walk away and reach Ba Sing Se. I mean, you see it with Laura. Laura. I mean, Slade also has a great relationship with teenagers. Yeah, not that great of a relationship. Not that kind. Zuko had to steal water a bag from a pregnant woman while sleeping, as Zuko had peaceably let the woman die of thirst in the original. Zuko tried to plan to rob upon seeing the pregnant woman, decided not to rob them. Yeah, that's unnecessary because I mean, yeah, back in the original inside Avatar, Zuko, when he was gonna like rob them because he was hungry and he needed like supplies and stuff, but he kind of decided against it once he saw the pregnant woman and was like, "What am I even doing with my life?" you know, because he was like, "Man, this is stupid. I shouldn't be doing this." To kind of show that obviously he does have a moral he does have a conscience. And then I had to say episode 3 of X-Men 97. I mean, we kind of do focus on like Professor X, Magneto, Rogue, Nightcrawler, and Beast in the past, encountering a younger version of Apocalypse and stuff in Sabanor. And, Magneto tries to like, reform him and stuff. But, of course, you know, we know Apocalypse is going to go down his eventual descent anyways. And, of course, Bishop shows up to like save the day and take everybody back in time. So that's pretty much the gist of the first 3 episodes. Like I said, the second episode was kind of my favorite out of them all. And yeah, I can't wait until I see more of the episodes of X-Men 97. I heard the new episodes are coming out on Wednesday. So from my perspective, I probably won't be able to watch it until Thursday because they come on those certain parts. So it's that I'm watching. But, it is what it is. Because I'm not getting Disney Plus. I'm not getting Disney Plus. I mean, just to watch X-Men 97. Possibly if something were to happen, but I'm just like, nah. Yeah, I'm like, nah, not for Disney Plus though. They need to have a lot more stuff on there for me to want to go back to like Disney Plus. So that's just how I feel. I recommend watching. Nope, Taylor, you talking trash about it. I'm not interested in watching the Netflix Avatar season 2. I know it's bad. I'm not gonna watch it. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much my takeaway from the X-Men 97 for the most part. So I will say that is something good that's going on and something I would prefer to watch over the season 2 of Netflix Avatar, which is like literally the same story. But if I wanted something better, I would just go and watch season 2 of the original Avatar: The Last Airbender show. But again, that's just me. That's just me. But anyways, I guess I'll tell you about a future video I have in mind. I haven't started this video yet, but I was thinking about doing a thing about anime filler. I've kind of brought it up a couple of times because I really do feel like a lot of people really take filler for granted. And so, or back then we took it for granted. Nowadays, we don't really have filler like that anymore. And I feel like anime filler or like anime only scenes and stuff like that really did a good job of like fleshing out like characters and character moments and stuff like that for the most part. So I kind of really enjoy stuff like that. But to follow the manga and stuff to the letter sometimes kind of just makes the show a little bit too rigid or just makes it a little bit too like, well, like, yeah. And I'm not saying that that's entirely a bad thing, but I just wanted to point it out. Just like, we do need some anime only scenes and we need more, we need to bring back filler in some kind of way because it really does like drive the character development or the character like interactions and stuff a lot more, they're a little bit more closer. It just feels like a more lived in world than just, oh, well, this is what the story says and stuff like that. Because I can understand if like the anime says one thing and then the manga says something else and it's a contradiction or contrary to the other. I get that. But yeah, which is why I'm watching Sailor Moon because Sailor Moon is definitely a perfect example where the 90s anime kind of like trailed off a little bit from the manga. but it kind of ended up in the same place, if that makes any sense. But I'm gonna talk about that when I like talk about it though. But the reason why a lot of people like to talk trash about anime filler now, or talk about, oh, well, this is filler, this is is because they're saying that this is non-consequential, this doesn't advance the plot, stuff like Invincible, The Boys, all that stuff is filler, which yeah, yeah, they definitely did spend a lot of time with either expedition or prattling and not really doing anything to like build up Mark's character or Butcher or Huey or Homelander or anything like that. Or yeah, it is just a pointless episode, pretty much. So I do understand. There is stuff like that sometimes, but yeah. But I do feel like anime filler though, and I just got done rewatching. Well, not rewatching, but watching an episode of Naruto Shippuden actually, where Hinata and Neji are in, like during the war arc and stuff. Hinata was you know uh, telling Neji that she knew about this time where Neji had like her and Neji back when they were like 12, right before Sasuke had left the village and stuff. And he was still in the hospital, which I'm telling you, a lot of filler stuff happened in between that time, or they really try to like fit in a lot of stuff in between that time while Sasuke's in the hospital for the Sasuke retrieval arc. I'm telling you, but basically Hinata was saying that one time she was training with Neji, and Neji kind of pushed Hinata too hard, where she stressed her eyes out with the Byakugan to the point where she kind of lost her vision for a bit, so she won't be able to see the fireworks and stuff like that. Which you can tell I watched this definitely for the 4th of July and stuff like that, or and I guess celebration for 4th of July and all that. And Hinata like passed out or whatever, well, not passed out, but lost her vision and stuff like that. And Neji wanted to help her get back her vision so that she can see the fireworks and stuff. And Naruto and Sakura go on an adventure with Neji to kind of to help her out and stuff. But they kind of come back empty-handed, and Neji decides to like help out Hinata however he could and stuff like that, and miss the fireworks and stuff, and just stay with her. So it was pretty nice. And then Hinata tells Neji that she knew because Naruto and Sakura, I said Sasuke, Naruto and Sakura had told her what happened and stuff like that. So she wanted to thank him for that. So that was a good episode that brought them to like together as cousins and stuff. Especially how we know what's going to happen to Neji, unfortunately later down the line too. So yeah, I'm just saying stuff like that really does help like flesh out these characters a lot more. Anyways, let me see what you guys are talking about. Rather original Avatar than Netflix, of course. We need founding fathers in anime in JoJo style. We need epic fight between Jefferson and Hamilton. Well, they got Steel Ball Run coming out and stuff, so you'll get your funny Valentine one. The Boys season 5 is a filler waste of potential. Yeah, exactly. Like they spent a lot of time just like going in circles and stuff with the whole Homelander thing until eventually we finally got somewhere with the last 2 episodes with the whole um Kimiko getting the powers and stuff like that, where she can like depower Homelander, and then in the end where they had that final battle against Homelander. So there's that. But yeah, and it also is kind of like the same thing with American comics too, where it just feels like American comics these days just feels a little bit pointless, where it's just like, okay, well, where's this building up to? Because despite, American comics and stuff like back then, like even though it was kind of a slow process, comics were still kind of like, developing, and the characters were still growing and whatnot, which I feel like they're kind of neglecting a lot of the characters that were kind of growing or developing over time, which is kind of weird, like Tim Drake, Connor Kent, Cassie Sandsmark. Like it's like, yeah, Bart Allen, not even using those characters, but it's like, well, like they're not advancing them or anything. So it's like, come on. And I feel like DC definitely had a hatred for them, thanks to like one of the writers, Dan Dio, I think his name was. Yeah, where he mentioned that he just outright hates legacy characters and he tries to kill them off because they get in the way of his classic characters that he grew up with, like Batman and stuff. And it just makes his characters feel old. But it's like, well, one of the things that we like about those characters was that they were in mentor roles and they had like proteges that they can teach and stuff, and it like helped build up their characters and stuff. So stuff like that. High School Dad is anime. It's got naked girls. What? Oh, I guess you mean High School of the Dead or something. Killing off the deep firecracker Black Noir in dumb stereotypical stage. Well, Sage never really died. Well, I guess you're talking about how they made her dumb. That's probably it. Um, and honestly, it's like the boys just killed off each other for the most part, what Homelander did. Well, the Deep killed off Black Noir. Homelander killed off Firecracker, and then the Deep he died because of his own stupidity. So yeah, I was like, honestly, these guys are more so their own worst enemies than the boys are. Killing off Black Noir was dumb. Yeah, it was. I'm not sure if we were watching that last season or the last couple of seasons, Doctor. But there was a new Black Noir that they had brought back and stuff, or they made it like they named him Black Noir, but it was a different guy, and they just killed him off like right away in the next season without no climactic battle against the boys or nothing like that. Just he gets killed by the Deep, like he gets strangled and then stabbed and then that's it. Like even though he could have like flown because he does have the ability to fly and stuff like that, or he could have like used his super strength. Like it was weird. Killing off important characters very early. That Black Noir. Yeah, yeah. There was a new one that could have been could have been the clone. They should have made it the clone, but no, there was just another guy that was a black man that wanted to be an actor like the other Black Noir and stuff like that. But then he had a friendship with the Deep, and then things kind of went south, and he just killed him and stuff. That's what happened. But you're thinking about the first Black Noir, which he was interesting, but they killed him off. Which I thought that was pretty dumb too at the time, because I'm like, I at least wanted to see him fight against Soldier Boy and get his revenge for what he did to him. That would have been cool, but no, no, he just has to get killed by Homelander because Homelander was mad that that Black Noir didn't tell him about his real dad. Like, okay, how the Deep managed to kill Black Noir too is it possible? I mean, it's possible, but it was just stupid how he died though. Or it wasn't even much of a fight to begin with. But yep, yep. But I guess yeah. So like I was saying though about the whole character regression thing, and I feel like that's what we feel about with this with some of these American comics is that there's just a lot of character regression because even with stuff like X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, like we liked a lot of that stuff growing up, and they were kind of progressing the characters where you had the Fantastic Four where you had Reed Richards and Sue Storm get married. They had they had kids, Franklin and Valeria Richards and stuff like that. Johnny's been through relationships, the Thing, Alicia Masters. I know I'm talking about ships and stuff and relationships, but I promise you it's going somewhere. They started their own family, they got past certain milestones and stuff like that. Certain enemies. What else has the Fantastic Four have done? Like all that stuff where you had Peter Parker, where he graduated from high school, college. I don't know if he really graduated or dropped out because he did drop out for a bit from college, and then him and his Aunt May had a falling out over that whole thing. Got married to Mary Jane and whatnot. There were times where Peter was either like trying to become a scientist or of course he did his photojournalism for the Daily Bugle, but he was trying to move on to other things, start his own company, whatever. But then they regressed his character where I don't even know what they're trying to do with Peter Parker anymore. And then the X-Men, the X-Men are definitely regressed as characters where we wanted to see these characters who were going through like a lot of prejudice and they were being hunted down like animals and stuff. To now all of a sudden, we're regressing them to being like, oh, they're villainous and stuff and they're terrorists or whatever. It's just like a lot of stuff. And it's like this isn't what we want to see from comic books. So yeah, that's pretty much like the most part though. Activists, Hollywood weirdos. Oh yeah, Hollyweirds. If Black Noir survived. I was wondering that, like, what if they made him like a Deadpool kind of thing? That would be pretty interesting, but nah, like it was the final episode, so I'm like, oh, well, I guess he's dead after all. But that's what I was saying though. So that's why I wanted to make a anime filler video instead of talking about anime filler. So be on the lookout for that. but that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about here. If you guys have any like closing things that you want to share, yeah, let me know. I say, High School DxD. Oh, you're talking about High School DxD. Yes, I have seen High School DxD. I think I've seen majority of the seasons. I don't think I've seen all of it, but majority of it. I should be reading this novel that I do have of High School DxD though. Deep needs more respect. Nah, no, you don't. Oh, you're talking about the Deep Survive, not Black Noir. Well, actually, no, you did say Black Noir. Nah, the DP's dead. We saw him get impaled by that octopus thing, so we know he's dead. Unless the Deep got some crazy healing factor I don't know about, then okay. But anyways, but yeah. So you guys got anything else before I head out? But I am kind of glad you guys came through. I know I would have preferred to do this on like, you know, Friday or Saturday, but I promise I'll do this weekly or on the weekends and stuff like that. And this, well, it ain't the weekend anymore. But definitely look forward to this. Maybe next weekend, like Friday or Saturday or something like that. I might have some interesting news next time regarding my personal life because I got this. I applied for a certain job, and I haven't really shared it with you guys yet. But we'll see. C Mob killed the Deep. Yeah, they did. Too bad that Samuel L. Jackson shark didn't get in on that though. See you. Peace out. Nice stream and good night. Happy belated 250th 4th of July USA. Yep. Happy 250th belated birthday for 4th of July. I really wish I would have done a drawing, and I guess that's still on the table. But I've been like, but sometimes you won't get everything out on time, and you just got to just do things like still in celebration of it. It's still the thought that counts, right? But yep. Been thinking about doing something like drawing the Statue of Liberty or something. Remember one time I like I drew the American flag and I colored it in. It looked pretty great and stuff like that in my sketchbook. But yeah. But anyways, I'll see you guys. It was nice speaking to you guys, Dr. Hino, XE Kid, Taylor. Who else was here? Jackson. I know he wanted to talk about the X-Men thing, but he probably dipped. When I was talking about the Wonder Woman stuff, Jay Leno, of course, Ashes as always. But yeah, I'll see you guys and have a good weekend, or well, a good week. It's the weekend's over now. All right, bye.